And another got company, the lion and the three. I'm smiling now, but shed some tears earlier, you know. Shed some tears and a little bit of suffering earlier, but I'm gonna check a little bit of my king, the sun. Yeah. Gonna check a little bit of the king, the sun. See where it is and see what we gotta get doing with that. And that's all we gotta get drilling. For the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians, the plumbers, and the welders, the truckers, the welders, the butchers, the bakers. Oh yeah, that's why we're gonna get a little bit of that. Not a lot, but I'm happy I get to see a little bit of the heavens. You know, make way for my uncle there who's just gonna drop a little bit of that, take the price of gas. 151. I guess it keeps steady. And so towards the sun we're gonna go, I guess. Because if I leave after 3, October, November, December, January, February, then I'm gonna go towards the sun. If I leave earlier than 3 p.m., then I'm going towards the mountain on a rainy day. Gonna have to be careful. Maybe there's gonna be a little bit of rainbow. Let us see. Oh yeah. See, you don't want to see my face too much. I want to see the beautiful colors and beautiful flowers. And I got, of course, those words of gratitude to pronounce, rock and roll it. Beautiful leaves for the left and for the right, for the left and for the right. For the butchers, for the bakers, for the nurses, for the truckers, for the firefighters. Firefighters say, what am I moody for, you know? Nurses just finished a 12-hour shift, you know. They need a massage therapy session. I took a bath yesterday, so although broke, financially stressed, but I'm rich, affluent in kisses and trillions of kisses. I got trillions of kisses, so I really can't complain. Got trillions of marching steps. I guess if I march with those trillions of steps and the sun, the king, the pope is still gonna laugh at me, say, ha ha, your trillions of steps, rainbow dragon, click dick, dick, click, click dick. Rainbow dragon are not gonna be sufficient even to extinguish the flare which I throw upon. So I said, I'm gonna say yes indeed, and yeah, that is truly so, and that is truly a truth, you know, that I guess cannot be pronounced in other ways, but for me to salute my Pope, the King, the Sun, who now rises and now sets, and will rise and set regardless of my moodiness, my tears, my pain, struggling and suffering. But maybe if I get a massage, the smile of the sun will protrude. Butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, the firefighters, electricians, you know, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, gotta go towards the sun and look at this beautiful tree, and always gotta give a little bit of that gratitude. They're gonna go on the strike again, you know. They're gonna go on the strike for the third time. It's gonna be quite dangerous, you know. For that, we're gonna see a little bit of that sun and gonna head towards the sun with that, you know. So that is, of course, the levels where we're at now, you know. So gotta get a little bit of that sunshine with that, and that's just the domain where we have now to be protruding about, of course, in the generalships where we are now, of course, all the way where we got now, you know, protruding about. And you gotta get, of course, always for that rock and roll, and always for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, and the electricians, the plumbers, and all those, of course, who gotta get, of course, for the building of the aqueducts, you know. Think about it, just to have, of course, all this electricity, you know, all this water here, you know, it's all this water here that we have, running water, and all those dimensions what we got now to be protruding about. And that is something which we gotta be knowledgeable about, you know, the dimensions of where we exist, and the civilizational level, you know. And Thursday, October 23rd, month of Scorpio, and month of Scorpio running. Gotta check it out for that Scorpio, you know. All my fellow Scorpios are black, white, and rainbow. Gotta get it left to matchmake, you know, for black, white, and rainbow. And I composed a little bit of LGBTQ theme rap song earlier. Anybody want to commission that rock and roll rap? And financially stressful artist and philosopher. I'm free, I guess, and paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, and of course paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, you know, and paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, and of course paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, paid my Netflix. Still gotta get that subscription, you know. I gotta watch Umbrella Academy season 3 and season 4, and I got it on the go, you know, for them to be. And the fourth one, I guess, is gonna have to be noted that it was the paying of my phone bill. I paid it late, but I paid it. Paid it late, but I managed to get it paid. I don't know what to say, I say. Just as I flow with that rock and roll, always for the workers, they're going on the strike again. That I'm good at. Rock and roll I'm good at, you know. Geopolitics I'm good at. Sports and fitness I'm good at. And because of my Asperger's neurodivergent condition, you know, sometimes the communications can be a bit more difficult, you know. Aspies, we're different, you know, and this difference is not negative, evil, or demonic. It's not a disease, you know. It's not a disease, and that's just not how it is. And I gotta say, I'm pretty much becoming joyous now. So I see the clouds dispersing, the sun dispersing the clouds, and gonna get a little bit of rock and roll. We're gonna go towards the bridge. I guess we're gonna rock and roll it, try to do a little bit of zigzag, or however we're gonna do it, and then go in and out, you know. There's so many ways to do it with that, and there's just the ways we have, of course, to conquer Midley, be involved in. There's a crow. The crow knows my secrets, I guess, but the crow also knows your secrets if she knows mine, you know. It says, don't worry, dragon, I know their secrets as well. Everybody's got some, I guess, eh? No need to spy on me, like I always say, secret services of China, Russia. Stay over there, you know, and play black and white and rainbow. Oh, look at those colors there. Oh, isn't that cool? That'll be nice, because dancing is my favorite sport, you know. Habs, gotta salute the Habs. Habs won a good victory. Please reduce the tickets. Oh yeah, there's the sun. Please reduce the tickets, you know. Reduce the tickets. Reduce the ticket. Habs and, you know, all that. NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, 44.9%. That is the estimation of the reduction of the cost of the tickets. That I gotta say, my anonymous friend would love a green car like that. If I get $1 million, I'm gonna get her some. And these, this is just a special garden there. It's so beautiful, eh? You like them also, eh? They're really nice. I love the pink and the white together. This one is really nice. Yeah, have a nice day. The mixture, yeah, exactly. The blending, yeah. Exactly, so that's why I like the mixture. This one you have here also, you know. Look at that, see? Those ones are really nice, so. She smiled. My auntie there smiled and said, yeah, me too, I like it. Probably said, what a weirdo. Yeah, I'm weird. I'm weird, strange, awkward, bizarre. Most Aspies are, hey? Most Aspies. People who live with Asperger's and HFA, high functioning autism, we are more weird. We can be good at some things, you know, certain mathematics, and not all Aspies are good at computer science, you know. Only about 20% are within the community. We consider that we're a community less than one. So we're less than 1% of the human population, you know, so less than 1%. Less than 1%, you know. Less than 1%. Actually, the ones who are diagnosed is 0.44%. So although the number is double, so of course, being that the number is double, that number is double, right? In reality, some part of the half are unofficially diagnosed, but I've been refusing it for years and years and years and years and years, because I've been told, of course, for years and years that I have it, and of course, I always refused it. I don't want to accept the stigma, the label, you know, of being different. So that's not something that I wanted to accept until about 3.5 years ago. I wonder, I'm checking the votes here, but I don't know if none to vote yet. Maybe gonna do some voting on the 2nd. Gonna have to check their platforms, I guess. Checking their platforms, maybe do a little bit of that rock and roll, and no, please don't leave it there. You know, you gotta recycle that. You gotta recycle that. There's garbages right there. Here, I'll show you. So don't leave it here, you know, it's for children, and just recycle it, you know, empty it and recycle it. I'll show you where it is. I'm going to disinfect my hands afterward, because there's people coming there, you know, it's a public space. In the public, at home you can leave your table, clean it when you clean it, you know, in your own particular. I have my own, you know, I get dirty, I get back clean my small space. I cannot complain because it's small space. It's way smaller than where I used to live. Where I used to live, it was really like a tight prison cell, you know, like a tight prison cell, you know. So all those XYZ, of course, where to be now, are of course the dimensions of where we have to be, and that's what it is now, to be left and right, you know. And make sure that you don't leave trash, you don't leave garbage, you know, just for the public, you know. See this? This is beautiful. I love these. The red ones. Kind of looks symmetrical, eh? We have a beauty here in autumn, eh? Just the beauty of it. And they look so alive also, you know. They have that aliveness in them. So that is just, watch the bus here. The buses are going on strike again in November. 3rd time. Never happened before. Never happened before. And they asked for 25% increase over 5 years. So 25% divided by 5 is 5. They were basically 5% a year. So this is in French here. This is translated as strike in preparation. They have a syndicate, this is basically a labor union in French, and they're negotiating 2025, and they got voted high to go on strike again. Never happened before, but I think last time a strike like this happened, they said it was 30 something years ago, or something like that. I believe they said that on the radio 39 years ago. Of course, we gotta double check, you know, because for me, of course, from recent memory, and of course those recent memories is of course all the translation, of course, of the recent memory, where we have to do the dimensions whereof now we have on the side, of course, of the circumcision of the circumstantial positions where we are now. And of course, just like I said before, that the domain and the nations, and gonna do so this is where you have to put it. So the other pieces here, because there's some that's not recyclable. So this one you throw it there, see, you throw it there, and this one, the other one, you put it in the recyclage, right? So you have to do the recycling, right? Because you have to do it properly. One is for garbage and the other one's for recycling. So that's why we need a DJ for education, you know. So this one, I guess, you know, this one is compostable. Is it recyclable? We're going to check, of course, if it's recyclable. So of course, all the realization that this is actually recyclable, but we cannot we have to put it in the recycling. And this one has the recycling lid, see, but because it has a little bit of dirt, we're just going to squeeze it a bit. There we go. So now we have done it with that. So this is, because sometimes people mix, you know. So this is for garbage, that's for recycling. That's why you have the distinction there. So it's important to make the proper, you know, to properly do it, you know, properly do it like that. So being that it's properly done like that, then you do it properly with the side of the things, you know, because it is our individual responsibility as well as the collective, you know. That's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing like that. And see, this one as well is double there. So that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know, to the left and to the right. And See, this one is the same principle. Recycling and garbage. So one is recycling and garbage and one is the pursuit there, but just sometimes I do it myself. You've seen the videos there. I take from the garbage and put it in recycling and vice versa. It doesn't go there, you know, it doesn't go there. Of course, as you can see, the blue sky there, you know. Wow, look at that sky. What am I upset about? Look at that sky. Wow, that is just nice, you know. A piece of dust that I am. Look at that. Look at that. So beautiful, just comparing this comparison of the sky. Just now I'm happy, joyous. Just you gotta look up sometimes, eh? You know, the sea, I guess. Sometimes you gotta look up. Gotta salute the train conductors, and we're gonna see how that strike goes. And you know, my aspiness has come through blood, sweat, and tears, and suffering, and struggle and suffering, and double S on that. You know, dragonesses, priestess Hannah, yes I am, Adrian Hannah, dragon androgynous. Pansexual, aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, and always putting in for the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and am financially stressed. That's my only stress. Eh? Money, finances, economics, but that's basically what it is with that, and that's why we gotta get drilling to go see, and of course to get the appellations and the appellatives, of course, what we got now to relate ourselves what we have to be, or what we congruently do, you know, and that's what it takes, a little bit of that left and right. And I wanted to see here, that's why I came by that side. Oh, okay, they put it for the cars and the train, I get it, because here's like part pedestrian, but not a lot of people pass, you know. So I was just wondering here, or was from Montreal West, because this is the first one that I see for this particular candidate. So safer, greener, more vibrant. I gotta check them out. Usually I'm centrist. I'm a centrist. Pro-labor, love universal, revolutionary centrist. But my centrism is tied hand in hand with the North America collective centric. So now I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna wait because there's a stop there. And I'm sure the brakes malfunction. Sometimes the brakes don't function well. You gotta turn your heads left and right. You know, the brakes don't function well. And the citizen driver might press the accelerator instead of the brake. Building a stronger community through leadership and action. Elaborate. Explain. I want to hear maybe a few paragraphs related to building a stronger community through leadership and action. You know? For example, when I discuss my Trinity of theories for the North American Collective, which basically are fundamentally the only solution, or something which resembles my Trinity of theories is the solution, because fundamentally where we have arrived is, of course, all the level of stress. Look at that. Oh, I missed it. It was October 18th, so that was a miss and hit. October 18th, today we're the first day of Scorpio, eh? So, first day of Scorpio. That is gonna be nice with the first day of Scorpio, and they're honking, you know. Got a little bit of that honk. Guess they didn't press the pedal too much, you know. Not getting honked, but it's not me. 63 always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. This is Quebec, a Canadian who was born in the United States 3 times post 70-76. Once was born as a woman post 70-76 in the United States, and 2 times was born as a man, you know. So twice was born as a man, once was a woman, twice was born a man, once a woman post 70-76, and served in the same United States Armed Forces 2 times, and that's what it is with that, you know. And same U.S. Army, different. I served in different wars in the same United States Army, but the wars were different, you know. Different wars. The wars were way apart, you know. So that is that rock and roll drilling with that. But of course, I'm not somebody who likes violence, eh? Sometimes I get flashes of my reincarnations, past lives, and sometimes was born a man, a woman, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man. I don't know if you're into that more mystic. As I am a mystic, I'm also a philosopher, an artist, and athlete, and independent geopolitical, theoretical, analyst, and theorist, and philosopher, you know, always putting on the left and on the right, and that's what it is with that, and that's how you gotta get drilling, man. That's what they gotta get. Look at that. Look at these. These are just gorgeous. There, how they're still in October. They're still flowering, you know. They're still flowered up, you know, in October. Flowered up, man. Look. These ones are also gorgeous, eh? Very vivid, very alive. So yes, I do believe in incarnations. I live many past lives, many past previous incarnations across nations, from ancient Egypt ancient Rome, ancient Babylon, Sumeria. If you like poetry and the topic being reincarnation, one of my favorite poems of all time is George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly, in which he describes his reincarnations, although he did not mention that he was my wife in a previous incarnation, past life. You heard that correct. I was his wife and he was my husband. So once in a past life, 3,000 years ago, we were both. I was his wife and he was my husband. And then his husband and I was his wife, you know. So that's just why we're gonna drill it with that, man, you know. So I was his wife, he was mine. He was my wife, I was his wife, I was his husband, and he was my husband, basically. Vice versa. So I guess we balanced the scales, but I wasn't able to tell you if his soul is alive today. George Patton, General of the 3rd Army, USOA, where I lived myself in three previous, well, post 1776, because I was born several times, even before, you know, colonization and before Columbus discovered, went at the Hispaniola in Cuba. But then what matters is mostly, I guess, today. But I wonder if he is a man or a woman now. If he's a man or a woman somewhere, maybe he is roaming again. Maybe he's roaming again somewhere, you know. Oh, that's what's giving me hope there, you know. Two youth holding hands. That's worth being armed for, and we're gonna play that defense, eh? Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and yeah, those the two younglings, teenagers holding hands and having a discussion, that's LOV, and that gives me hope, you know. Day, man. LOV, otherwise what are we fighting to save civilization for, you know? It's West Side. West Side. You know, if they're millionaires, billionaires, they got their paper, got their money, you know. They're good. Otherwise, what are we fighting to save the world from Armageddon from, you know? Armageddon for, you know? If somebody's not doing that and holding hands like that in the public, you know? What are we fighting for otherwise? I'm good. Very few of us are worthy to fight in that great, terrible cause, which is new under the sun, Mr. Solomon, eh? Freedom, eh? Yeah. Freedom, eh? There's very few of us. It's freedom has to be, you know, with definitions, parameters, and strong responsibilities, and insured, you know. Insured. That's why the SSD principles, the security, service, and defense principles and protocols, you know, for liberty, gotta be insured. So of course that gives me hope. So gotta include them in the march, along with the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, and for my allies and armies, you know. A lot of people are exhausted, plenty of stress. I've been depressed and been suicidal, been rock bottom, been wanting to take my lights out, you know. So that's what it is with that, and that's all we gotta get doing, you know, rock and roll it, and that's all we gotta get, that drill, you know. And we gotta get on the left and on the right and in the middle and in between, you know, and that's gonna play that defense. And I'm somebody who doesn't like violence, you know. I do not like violence. I survived years and years and years and years ago. I survived a vicious surprise attack myself. It was no sportsmanship and no sportsmanlike conduct. I guess that would have been a automatic expulsion, maybe from all sports leagues, NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, you know. Excommunicado. You know, so dancing is my favorite sport. But yeah, I was vicious. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head a few times. Fell, hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro. Hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro. Hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro. And of course, I had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder. Had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, you know. A right arm, right shoulder, I was bloodied up. Hey, look at those beauties. Aren't they just gorgeous? I had a dislocated right arm, shoulder, I was bloodied up. I went to the Jewish General Hospital and cracked back my right arm, and I was placed on some meds, you know, some meds. Take those meds, and I just blacked out, you know, I just... I guess they tried to take me out, I guess. Maybe I was supposed to die. I guess in many ways I did die on my fourth rebirth now. It's 11 years. I'm gonna have to go check those beauties there. Aren't they just gorgeous? Look at those. Beautiful garden here, see? Look at that. Thank you. Thank you. Colorful. Love it. I love bright colors, you know. So anyways, I survived that vicious surprise attack, maybe because of my difference, you know, Asperger's and HFA, and there's a lot of Aspies are prone to abuse and all that. So that is, of course, all the characteristics what we have now to be in the relationship and these dynamics, you know, affluences of the dynamics of where we live now, you know. And in the corner there, and you got some hearts there, yeah. So I still love to see love, you know. I'd rather we building it together, you know. Get rid of the border, fuse Canada into the Imperial Democratic Republican complex, you know. Yeah, whatever. I used to live in a very moldy place. I'm still on the island of Montreal, and I gotta retrieve my archives. I'm gonna go. I got a deadline, and with Asperger's, time management, and all these, because of our routines, which take a lot of time of our daily routines with a neurological mental divergent condition. And you know, when I spot the flag, that is the flag. That's the flag spotted right there, you know. That's the flag spotted, so I gotta show off my flag. You know? I got it on the flesh, so you can't tell me nothing. It's 24/7 on me. Got that Canada tatted up, you know. Got that Canada tatted up on my body, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Truckers, plumbers, electricians, welders, nurses, doctors. Yeah, you know, so that is just what it is with that. And I plan to go by October 31st. I wrote it in the agenda, 4 different days to go. So I got, I think today I wrote it to go, but it's already late because I did 2 loads of laundry. So that was a blessing. Thank you for the laundry machine, the laundry in the dryers. For the longest time, I used to do the laundry at the laundromat, you know, for the longest time. I used to do the laundromat. And of course, that was the complex where I used to go and used to get that rock and roll for that, and used to be immersed in all those civilizational complex where we have, you know, to be on the left and on the right, and in those civilizational complexes where we are now, to be relegated about and to turn their heads left or right. And when we cross the street here, you know, turn their heads left or right. You know, that was, of course, was a vicious surprise attack, you know, and that vicious surprise attack was years and years and years ago. And I guess I survived it, you know. It's always something which we gotta get drilled with that. This is a nice dragon right here. Kids are gonna love it. Please, please, please. Please, 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 you know. Here's the costs. I reduce the cost of the candies. ASAP. Millionaires, billionaires. Canada, here we got that top, eh? Canada, we got the top. Gonna cross on the other side again. Beautiful dragon. Canada, here we have a few corporations that dominate the whole grocery retail market, eh? It's about 3 of them, 3 or 5. And that's quite interesting because I always have fun in the past years when some people say, hey, you know, I don't go shopping to Metro, I go to Super C, but Super C is actually owned by the same company as Metro, so basically you are going to the same company. It's just the illusion in many ways. And some people say that about Loblaws and Maxi, that they go to Maxi, not Loblaws, but Maxi is actually Loblaws. So what's called in financial ownership, and it's called, of course, holding companies, you know, the parent company, holding companies, which have it as a corporate structure in different way that they're structured financially, basically. Sometimes just to simple it down, you know, that is basically the shareholders and those who own shares, and the majority of shares, of course, are mostly owned common or by groups or investment groups. So it's less and less ownership, of course, from the middle class and from the lower class, you know, vast majority. Tough economic times myself for years and years and years and years. Financial stress. That's my only stress now, and I had many jobs myself. It's just with Asperger's, it's losing them, you know. It's for my community, although we're a tiny, small community, there's a high unemployment rate. It stands at, it stands, of course, at 85%. 85%, you know, 85. Sometimes 80, sometimes more than 80. However, it's very elevated, eh? The unemployment rate for Aspies is very elevated. Look at that, isn't that nice? A tribe, an empire of spiders. I love spiders, real spiders. Turn your heads left and right. Salute the ambulance drivers across the North American Collective and the firefighters. Gotta put them in, you know, in the incremental aspects to be. And that's how we got, of course, that's how we gotta get that drill with that. And that's how we're gonna get it for them, you know. They also deserve to be financed some massage therapy sessions. Although I've been craving one, I think I'm gonna call on the millionaires business to finance the firefighters instead with that, you know. The nurses, public nurses. We need to re-establish, re-harmonize, rebalance, re-equilibrate both the public and the private partnerships. Both the public and the private, and within myself. Look at that beauty, isn't that just gorgeous? Down between my community of Aspies, not just part of, because I'm part of the LGBTQ community, I'm androgynous, pansexual, 50-50. Man, woman, man, many past, many incarnations, but you get that 50-50 now. A man, woman, man. And of course, with Asperger's, I'm part of the tiny community, which is less than 1% of the population. And you see here that it's just a beauty with that. And that's all I gotta get that category. And here's the bridge. See, these bridges have to be a lot of rebuilding here, but that's why I always say that between us, Aspies, aka high functioning autistics, we have to build bridges, whether we build small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. Those four categories are just when you order, you know, coffee, fries, or pizza. You might order a small cup of medium size, or a large size. So you might order any of those cups. You might order any of those cups related, and of course that's the relevation, of course, of listening and building, and it takes action, right? Because bridges are built through both brains and muscle. So that is just what we have to do, brains and muscle, categorically in brains and muscle. So that is, of course, the habilitation of us having to do it in the circumference, of course, of being involved. Look at that. Beautiful blue, eh? And across the street here, left or right. Turn the heads left or right, because you never know, eh? Sometimes they might come from the side and they might drill it in and the brakes malfunction, and, you know, I really have to go pee. So I'm gonna have to rush it. I really have to pee, you know. So when you have to pee, you have to go. Nature calls, and we're gonna go in nature here. Look at that beautiful red. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna be able to hold it more than 44 seconds. Close to 45. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Here we're gonna go, because there's nobody and it's safe. 1. Oh yeah. Yeah, I gotta admit there were a few drops, you know. But this is just water, and I'm gonna put them to wash, you know. Because I'm wearing is, of course, for the rain, you know, the rain material, rain. So we're gonna go all the way to the sunset and then come back and drill it on that side, you know. Somebody left a little piece of art there. So yeah, you know, it's like I crossed that bridge, and like I said, I don't have antagonistic, resentful, hostile feelings towards the 99% of the population, you know, of you who are neurotypicals. Look at the beauty. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at that. I'm glad I took a turn to come here. Mother Nature, in her perfection, you know, with all the flaws, the vices, the scars, and the PTSD, trauma, whatever it have, and all the scars on the body, and all this. Look at that beauty, man. It's just wow, just amazing. It has a perfection, you know, although there's certain dark aspects, I guess, you know, there's certain more dark aspects. Anyways, Not an evil necessarily, bad, negative darkness, you know, but just Mother Nature, goddess, forgotten goddess, eh? I created my surviving and COVID in 2020 and being depressed, being suicidal. I created my surviving to the goddess of many names, countless names. She just dances with the sun, you know, her brother the sun. And although I will to build, see, this is wild grapes. These are wild grapes here, so thank you, goddess, I guess. She makes all the products here by dancing from the black fertile earth, just with the dance. I guess they're washed already today. Just with the dance, fertile earth and the sun, and you know, all that. Water, the rain, I call it the goddess's orgasms, you know. And yeah, got a little bit of that. That's the wild grapes. Thank you, goddess. They're sour, they're good, they're good. Oh yeah. They're good. Oh yeah. They're good. So what I do every year, well, almost every year, I think last year I didn't do it, but during COVID I started doing collecting the grapes, washing them thoroughly, the wild grapes, because there's several places. This year we have a lot of wild grapes. I think I'm gonna come maybe in the next days and weeks ahead. And look at that, isn't that just gorgeous? You know, I love yellow flowers, and you have those oranges, flaming orange there. There's so many, just orange and yellow, and they're still standing in October. This is quite interesting, hey, that they're still there. They're so nice. I love this garden here. We have like small apples, crab apples they're called, right? Those are sour, but you can make a jam for the winter. And with the grapes, what I do is I wash them. I boiled them, I crushed them. I boiled them, I crushed them. Well, while I boil them, I kind of crush them. Then I filter them, and then I make juice. I make grape juice. I put some sugar, or you can put brown sugar or regular sugar, or make a little bit of sugar, or just like that if you want without sugar. But I do put sugar. If I have, whatever I have, I put. If I have sugar, brown sugar, whatever, I will use sugar. So I make for the winter. Basically grape juice. It's grape juice, wild grape juice. If you want me to make you a bottle, you know, just commission and I'll make a bottle. And shipping North America, only Canada, US. I'm not gonna ship anywhere external from North America because it's gonna be internal. And whatever bottle you want, if you want a plastic bottle or if you want a glass bottle, if you want a, you know, whatever bottle of your choice. 1 liter, 2 liters, gallon. Gallon is 4 liters, basically 4 liters, right? A gallon. So you can commission and can make some arrangement for doing that, because I do it. I've been doing it regularly, and it comes out pretty good. Of course, they're wild grapes, eh? So it's a bit sour. Depending, you can put more sugar, make it sweeter, but nonetheless, they make a good one. They're wild grapes from Montreal, Canada. So we gotta build bridges, you know. So just like when you order, you know, coffee, fries, or pizza, fries, or coffee, you might order a small one, medium one, large one, or extra large. Within those 4 categories, of course, those are the 4 main categories. But that's the 4 main categories of bridges, which we have to build between myself and other Aspies like myself, or neurodivergents, and you, the vast majority of the population, who are 99%. So now we work to build bridges together, us neurodivergents. And yes, we are different, you know, we are different. We have our problems, and our problems usually range due to this difference where we have certain difficulties, and I'm going to say less able. I don't use the word disability necessarily, or disease. You know, I remember years and years ago I was working and somebody said, hey, they were whispering, hey, you know, that's a disease, you know. And in French here, I built we speak in French, say, oh, you know, that's a disease. And it's not a disease. There's still a lot of work to do concerning what Asperger's is and what is not. And of course, Asperger's and HFA, high functioning autism, is one and the same thing. It's one and the same thing, right? It's one and the same thing. Asperger's and HFA, high functioning autism, is one and the same thing. There's no difference. Asperger's is HFA. They merged, they mixed together, they fused in 2013, 2014. So when I use HFA, standing for the acronyms for high functioning autism, or if I use Asperger's, they're basically the same condition, neurological mental divergent condition. And I don't even use the word symptoms. I don't mind people who do, but I say characteristics and traits. Look at this beauty, hey? My favorite color, what I said. You gotta chew, gotta taste it, just a few, so you know we gonna chew. This just got washed. Oh yeah. I'm probably gonna come take in the bag here and make juice. This is Publik. This was the trees like this and prunes, which were planted when Hydro-Quebec built those. So the story goes. Oh. Oh, so the story goes. I'll give a shout out to the Hydro-Quebec workers. Look at that, it's so red. My favorite color. Definitely you can make jam with this. I will try to do it maybe this year. I never picked them to do here jam. Dragon red jam. My favorite color. See? Gotta do it for that, you know. Gotta do it for that, you know. Gotta do it for the left, for the right. Yeah. They're not that sweet, they're not that sour. They're in between. So we have to build bridges, and our difference, we see the world differently, Aspies. There's certain small micro level, of course, and they're not protruding outside of the brain formations. There's small type of variations, mutations at the brain level, very small, microscopic, or a small microscopic level. At the small microscopic level, you know, at the small microscopic level. So of course all that variation is the relationship where we have now to be transducing about, and that's why we're gonna get rid of the manifestations, and those manifestations are in the way of making long-term friends, you know. Long-term friends is problematic, you know. Long-term friends, there could be a problem with that, and all those, of course, levels and layers, you know, that long-term friends is a more difficult way. Like, long-term friends can be difficult, you know. Oh, it can be very difficult for us. I made many friends, and that's why today I don't want to waste anybody's time, you know. Friends will benefits only. Friends will benefits only, you know. Pledge your allegiance to our family, and that's how we're gonna rock and roll it, you know, with friends with benefits. Thank you, Hydro-Quebec, for building these, and this is the privilege of civilization right here. And you know, sunset, so I'm just gonna go roundabout, and I guess the sun is always rising, always setting every second. Once again, thank you, Hydro-Quebec. So we have tens of thousands of these beauties here. Now my brain, of course, because as you know from my past video, if you don't know, that my brain is calculating a sort of mathematics. I'm curious about the height and the weight of this structure. And of course, in my brain, sometimes there's constant sort of percentages, ratios, mathematics, velocity, things of that nature, always kind of happening in the background, in a constant kind of like it's a constant, you know, thing. With Aspie brain, sometimes these peculiar things are happening. So that's why you have to always realize that about Aspies, how we are. Our brains are different, and so certain things of a social nature, I do use the word we are less able, you know. I guess even disabilities in certain social understandings, the cues, social cues, unwritten social rules, and we tend to breach things like personal space, you know. We tend to get too close to people, and I've been working on it. I'm still working on it every day, It's a work in progress. I gotta thank my anonymous friend who gave me 2 books on autism. They have chapters on Asperger's, and one book was loaned from the library 4 times. That one I gotta recommend. It's called appreciating Asperger's syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's syndrome. Is that from the Bhagavad Gita? Sutra, verse 8? Is that like, it's like a hymn, right? Maybe. Oh, that will check in Sanskrit. Many past lives, many incarnations. Vedic hymns as well. Eh? So, my mystic beliefs from reincarnations aside, and the goddess, of course, I always got to credit my surviving COVID, surviving being depressed and suicidal to the goddess, and I will heal here to build, the forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple of many names, Many names the goddess has, so many stars and constellations, now that we enter the first day of the month of Scorpio, so I guess we're gonna rock and roll on that first day of the month of Scorpio. Imperium, Draconis, Legionis, Servitium, Pledge, Allegiance, Legions, and our family, that's how we rock and roll it, and 24/7 sports and fitness, 24/7 geopolitics, 24/7 rock and roll. Always rock and rolling for the firefighters, the butchers, the Hydro-Quebec workers. There's thousands of tens of thousands of structures just like this across, not just Quebec, Canada, but across the North American Collective, and now we have all the infrastructure, electronic, digital, electronic, which is interlinked, because the electric grids across the North American Collective, what I call the North American Civilizational Complex, because as a philosopher, I'm a philosopher as well. The North American Civilizational Complex, we are an emergent civilizational complex which is not divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization, is not divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization, and that's why we got those beauties there, see, even here. And so we gotta get that rock and roll, see? Look at that. That's nice, isn't that nice? That's something. That is something, isn't it? This made me smile. That red, dark red, and shades of red. And see here, you got for this whole building, those 4 buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4. They can just harvest here, and some of them are going bad, but see, it's the same as there, and you can make a jam. You can make some jam. Be careful if you have children, because there's seeds. See, like, let me take a bite. There's some seeds in it, see? But I eat the seed. This one's the best I've tasted in recent memory. I eat it all with the seed. Well, recent memory is I have trouble remembering my life prior to winter 2014, January, February 2014 about. Sometimes memory comes back. Not necessarily ACAB, not all. That'll be a very high percentage. Some are more than others. Less than some. So the relationship now that we have, of course, in the projections of where we have now to be. But yeah, I have problems. I have a very good memory of the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years plus. But just, it's like a blackout of memories, like access denied and flashes, and no, I can't be sure of my memories. I'm gonna black out before January, February 2014, which is a long time ago. Oh, there's 4 birds. I think there's more. Are they migratory? Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're migrating. And they kind of clustered and go. I think there's one more there. There are 4 or 5. 4 for sure. Might have been 5. But because of the claws, I'm gonna have to recheck the tape, I guess. Whatever the case may be, and see these beauties. Hey, I believe this is chamomile, right? Look at that. Quite cute cuties. So yeah, I have trouble accessing my memories prior to January, February 2014. But if you think that now we're the first day of the month of Scorpio, astrological sign. And of course, the thinking that it's just January, February, let's say, then it's March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So it's more than 11 years and a half ago. So that's a long time. 11 years and a half ago, that's a long time, eh? I used to live in a very moldy place. I didn't even have a bathtub. I'm grateful that I have a bathtub now. The bathroom was so small, tiny bathroom, tiny bathroom, very tiny, super tiny, and I didn't even have a kitchen. It was in the room, so it was super tiny. It was on the ground in the basement, underground moldy place. And I have some documents from there, from 2010, 2011, at least from 2011, and some other documents with information that some mail was shipped there in like September 2010, something like that. So I was there for at least 4 or 5 years, maybe even more. I graduated high school, and I have a high school diploma from here, from Canada, in 2003. But considering my memory prior to 2014, just as like a blackout, Sometimes because of alcoholism and all that, Alcoholism, being an alcoholic sometimes, that's what causes it, Junkie, being a junkie. I don't know if I was a junkie, maybe I was doing hard drugs and drinking alcohol and the trauma and made a head trauma and all that. Maybe it doesn't really matter, Maybe sometimes the memory comes back or not. I'm gonna go to the Jewish General Hospital. I gave a deadline, 31st of October. I got 4 things to do before announce October 31st. It's just Halloween. I love Halloween. One is going to retrieve the archives from the Jewish General Hospital. Try to retrieve them. Hope that he got them. Because I went to the emergency after I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head a few times, hit my head on the floor, and was really bloodied up. And I had a dislocated right arm, shoulder. Went to the Jewish General Hospital. And so I'm gonna go see soon, and then clean my room off Sun Temple really good on the month of Scorpio before October 31st, and for the full moon in Scorpio coming in November in 14 days basically from now, 14 days from today, Thursday. So it's gonna be a whole weekend Sabbath for that. And then also send some more emails and write some invitations for my dream, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership, and of course propose again. Gonna propose again, I guess. I got 2 no's. Maybe I'm gonna do it like Biden. Got a beautiful garden here. They're still standing in October, the yellow ones, eh? So nice. So I proposed twice, but I'm gonna propose again on October 31st and see if I get a yes, maybe on Halloween proper, or the weekend of Halloween, or November 1st, 2nd. He get a yes. And supposedly Joe Biden proposed 6 times before he got a yes on the 7th time to Joe Biden. So the myth or legend goes, that Joe Biden proposed several times, like 6 times he got a no, and then the 7th he got a yes. So the story goes, right? That maybe that's true. She said no, and then the 7th, maybe I'm gonna get 10 no's, and then 11th I'm gonna get a yes on August. No, not August, but by April 8th, 9th, 10th, for that special holidays of wannabe Thelemite. Bury me with Papa Crowley up in New Jersey. Bury me, of course, up with Papa Crowley up in New Jersey. And bury me, of course, with Papa Crowley, and then bury me with at the top of the Mount Royal there, the back of the Belvedere, every 11 years, and Hampton, New Jersey, and then every 11 years to the city of the pyramids. That's how we gotta get that drill with that, and that's how we gotta get on that lock or low. So those are the things which we gotta be drilling now, to be on the left, on the right, and in the middle with these beauties here, to see what we gotta see, and see what we gotta do, see what we gotta drill, and see where we have to get that circumference inside the left and the right arena of the spheres. And of course all the conjugations where we have now to discuss a little bit of that Asperger's, autism, general HFA, Because myself, I do not require lots of support, you know, just more understanding, and gonna discuss the beginning, that there is not a disease, right? Again, this is so nice. Mother Nature, the greatest artist and scientist. This is just amazing. Isn't this just amazing? Mother Nature. Wow. Just amazing, man. Isn't it just gorgeous? Wow, wow, look at that. Isn't it just sublime and beautiful, and wow, 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 wow. This is Mother Nature's autumn's beauty and aliveness, fiery life, a red and orangey yellow. It's more yellow. Well, there's some orangey, yellow, greenish. Still some green left. See, there's still some green left. So you got 4 colors. You got green, you got orange, you got yellow, and you got red. But shades of red, basically, and shades of orange and yellow. So that's amazing. Really, really beautiful. So that is just what we have to do now, and in the manifestations of where we are now, I think before I get back into the bridge again and go south, and then I'm gonna have to do it again on the other side, because if I go in the, then I will probably gonna have to pee again. So I'm gonna go to the same spot. Yeah, I do need to pee again. Well, I hear nobody. There's nobody here. I'm in the clear. 1, 2, 3, 4. See you in a few seconds. Managed. I think, perfect. Drank a lot of water before I left. It was actually, some coffee also. I drank like three coffees, but I made them mild. I didn't make them that strong with that instant. So let's rock and roll a little bit on Asperger's autism, and always marching for the firefighters, the plumbers, the bakers, the electricians, the nurses. Nurses who finished waiting, got 1 hour to go across the North American Collectif, Canada, United States. Got 1 more hour to go, finishing a 12-hour shift. For the bakers, the electricians, some are on strike. First time, I think, in history, in the same year that it's our public transit goes on strike for the 3rd time, 3 times, That is something which we have to be, and we have to meditate upon. And those are just the dimensions of where we are now, in the relationships of us to be having. And those are, of course, all the domains where we got now to be categorically in the relationships where we got. So, of course, all those representations are concomitant, of course, to being representatives, so that we build bridges. So we gotta build bridges and see the beauty there, see the beauty where we got, and see the beauty where we gotta get that rock and roll, and see that beauty. Look at that. That's just beautiful, to get. And gotta build bridges, small bridges, big bridges, extra large bridges, and and look at that. That's just that red, flaming red. And there's a helicopter. The helicopter is going east, southeast approximation. See how my brain works, and neurodivergent. I'm trying to calculate the approximate velocity, speed, and distance. So I believe that it's going, it kind of looks like a steady rate. It's not decreasing in speed, it's not increasing in speed. Is it increasing a bit? No, it seems like it's steady. I know that it's going southeast, so towards the Atlantic, maybe slightly towards the Atlantic, maybe towards the border, toward the Atlantic, maybe at the air base, if it's a military one. We gotta get 300 of those new ones. Brand new Dragon Publik Bravo Partnership base helicopters for both Canada and United States. We're gonna get rid of the border, fuse the RCMP and the FBI, create a total security service and defense legion based on my new total 911 collective defense security protocols for the individual, and of course my philosophies, which I developed written over more than past 7 years. And I gotta be grateful, because where I live now is much better than where I used to live. I used to live in that very moldy place, and I was depressed, I was suicidal. And you got nice Halloween with the themes there, and it's good for the children. So I used to live in that moldy place, you know, still on the island of Montreal, and I'm grateful I moved from there. It was very moldy, very small, and didn't even have a bathtub where I used to live. I used to live in a small underground basement, and I moved from there and to a better place, and I was depressed suicidally for a few years actually, since about 2014, summer, autumn, winter not winter, but summer, autumn, late 2014, summerish, autumn 2014, till about summer 2017, I was like 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I was depressed and suicidal, long depression and suicidal was lasted a few years, and I crossed Canada coast to coast, you know. I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and that event solidified strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and wow, look at these like lemon, eh? I love them, they're so nice, eh? It's a little weird, but gorgeous. It's just so alive. These ones are also nice, eh? All the big flowers there. Super nice. They're standing in October. I love them a lot, and that one's also gorgeous. So I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017 with my anonymous friend. In August 2017, we went to BC, British Columbia, Vancouver, BC. We went to Vancouver, BC, you know, so that was a good on the go. BC, British Columbia, Vancouver is in August, and then in September 2017 by train, it was a 25 hours and 44 minutes train ride. 25 hours and 44 minutes. That's the duration of the train ride. 25 hours and 44 minutes. It's a ghost for Halloween. And in August 2017, when we went to Vancouver, BC. The duration was 3.5 days by bus to go, and another 3.5 days to come. So, because crossing Canada by bus, it was a long journey, long ride, 3.5. Canada's wide. Just speaking of Canada, I established the strongest esprit de corps when I crossed Canada on my family and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states as well. And I see, you know, the flag. I gotta say, the king is absent. We should have been a republic at the beginning of the. Oh, look at those gorgeous ones there. Just superb, beautiful. We should have been a republic. The 1st of January 2020, and you know the principle, the protocol. The principle, the protocol. When I see the flag, I show the flag. Principle, the protocol, that's the protocol, you know. Protocol, principle. You got a more beautiful flower there, you know. The protocol, the principle, that is just something which we have to do, you know, to show our flag right there when we see it. And gonna go around the bow, check a little bit of the pumpkins here, the Halloween decoration. Those are our freestyle rock and roll as we do it on our trademark Dragon Army marches and 800 dragons dancing, marching rock and roll. It's like, yeah, look at that. Nice red eyes. I see the red in your eyes. I see the red R.E.D. What you said with me. You wanna dance? Let's go, let's do it. I don't battle. I just do that cooperation. Gonna go for the dancing, for the nature. Gotta please the DJ. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful ones, eh? I like that unicorn like that, how it is. It's really nice, hey? It's cool. Love it. Unicorn looks happy, red-eyed though, eh? It's got that red eye, so that's really nice as well. Good job. Children are gonna love it, and please again, you know, just reduce the cost of the candies corporations before Halloween, you know. If I would have been a millionaire even, I would have went to finance decorations across my neighborhood. I would have knocked on those. Did I give me a call? I said, you want decorations and candies? I'll buy them for you. And I would have bought in bulk, and I would have done at the beginning of the month. I would have done I would have hired some people to go and say, if you want to sign up, you get a $50 credit, or we'll deliver the candy and we'll deliver to you the goods and the candy. We would deliver to you the goods the candy for the children. We just have to put the decorations, and just take like 4 hours minimum. 4 hours minimum. Let's say from 4 to 8, or from 5 to 9. 5 to 9. 5 to 9 or 6 to 10, or 5 to 9 is good. 5 to 9 for you to donate, to give the candy. I would have done that. Would have hired some people, put some people to work, some teenagers. Said, hey, we love Halloween. I love Halloween for as long as I can remember. I mean, considering my memory, like prior to January, February 2014, it's on the blackout, so I can't really be certain except for what I wrote in journals and the documents which I have, stuff like that. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, 2014, that's more than 11 years and a half ago. I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that person who was before COVID. Since I died in February, March, I had COVID. I thought I was going to die. I died right there where I live now, and being reborn. Adrian Hanna Dragon laid the foundations for the first Kingdom Empire, laid with trillions of kisses, trillions of kisses. Trillions of kisses with that, so that's what we're gonna do. So that's what I would have done, in the circumposition where we have now, to be regarded, and we're doing it there with a little bit of that left and right, and in the left and right, and of course in the middle with that, and that's just how we have to be doing now, to be circumpositioned about in all the dynamics, where we have the characteristics and the appellations and the love aspects of our dynamical representations, where we have another beauty there. See, oh, that's nice with the flowers there. I said, oh, these are cool. Also, the fence. So I would have definitely. I'm not totally selfless. I don't make pretense that I am totally selfless. I don't. I have my lusts, my wafers, which I love. I love to eat well, But I've been stressed financially for years and years and years and years, I moved there really with nothing where I live now, and that's what it is, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get drilling, So that is some things which we have to be, and something which we gotta be loving, that relationship where we got, oh, it's coming in and out. Coming in and out from the pumpkin. You're scared of children. Oh, nice. It's gonna come up. Oh. And you got crows. I love crows. 1, 2, 3, 4 crows. 1, 2, 3. See? There's one. That's a crow. Crow, crow, crow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe there's more. Oh, there's more in the back. But 4 in the front. There's more in the back. More than 4. And we got spiders, and these are lovely. Really cool. So I would have done that, I would have hired some people, went about the neighborhood, in my neighborhood NDG. My old neighborhood is NDG CDN, and I would have hired some people, say, hey, what you gonna do this week? You're gonna go door to door, give the number, give the phone. If they want to be credited, we're gonna give them next Y amount. We're gonna get the decorations for them. They have to put the decorations, and we're gonna get them the candy to give to the children. So maybe about $30 Canadian to each individual. Let's say 5, 6 or 7 for the decorations, or 10 for the decorations, which they can reuse, and 20 for the candy, to give to the children. So that would have been the budget for the individual households. The individual households, basically. That's the reference I'm making. The individual households. Oh, which one is to go? We're gonna go both. The individual households. I'm glad that there's many. I'm so happy for the children, because, they're innocent and lovely. I'm still gonna get dressed up myself. I'm gonna be a child myself, Gonna be a child myself, with Asperger's and autism. I guess we kind of have double adolescence, double adolescence. Anyways, some more than others, of course. That one looks happy. What are you smiling about? That looks happy. The ghosts also, those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the side, they look happy. But the one in the middle kind of looks like, oh, I ate too much candy. See? I ate too much candy. I ate too much candy. They're like emojis, Nice. This is really nice. This one also is kind of booming, eh? Yeah. Oh yeah, in the back also they got some worms, eh? That's nice. Yeah, I love it. This one's really nice. That's really cool. And the witch. What you brewing? And the witch. What you brewing? Got some brew for me. I need some healing. Got a frog. Got some witches. I'm not a witch. I'm a priestess. Got a kisses, got a best. It's so nice, so happy for just this area here, this street. I just counted 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, they're like 11 already. This fall, I think 10, and then this one's gonna be 11 here. So just from there, from the side where I started turning the corner till here, they have like 11 places to go. And the 12, and the 12 one is there. So more, because there I got the pumpkin, and you got some like I see it blurred. I was prescribed some medicine, but I think it's yeah, it's Halloween. See, I was prescribed some glasses, but unfortunately the government will cover a certain amount, but I will still have to pay like 120, which I don't have to spend on glasses. And I gotta save $300 to go to the dermatologist, to see, because look at those bats, they're so colorful. I have plenty of scars, and particularly I discuss it, and no need to spy on me, Secret Service of China or Russia. You cannot blackmail me in any way whatsoever. You can try, but you won't be able to. This is nothing to be ashamed of, nor can you blackmail me with shame or sexual blackmail. Some people try for some reason, but in the past, don't try, because for 18 plus, you're 18 plus. That's my only request. Friends with benefits, 18 plus, you gotta be an adult for one, black or white or rainbow. Black or white or rainbow. I've been part of the LGBTQ community, androgynous, bisexual, for as long as I can remember. More than 11 years now. But, just friends with benefits. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. But percent to what I said, because of the nice, look at that. Because I didn't want to go see the dermatologist, but all the dermatologists that I consulted, they were $300 per consultation minimum. Because I have I'm gonna wait until I discuss it, because there's some people there, but it's not really something that, just I have scars, I have scars on the whole body, and I'm not sure what it is there. I have on my androgynous genitalia. Here, there's a flock of crows, I know, knocking on the doors of the crows. I see the crows, but this is nice, full of crows, That's pretty cool as a Halloween decoration. Whole flock of crows right there. And there they have not. There's the crows there. Very nice, the decorations. Kind of trying to look. Oh, here is a pothole. I got a flash of. And there, see when you get. You might stumble right there and trip, man. You gotta be careful. Sometimes it's very deep and steep, So yeah, because I have like scar, like I don't know if it's a scar or what it is. It's on my privates, the genitalia, clit dick. Sometimes it goes rocket. God has blessed it, high above the sky, launched like a rocket, satellite, sats, rocket. My androgynous clit dick, clit. Sometimes goes, God has blessed, rocket to the moon. Not that high, of course. It's not that big, anyways. Even if it goes that rocket, but. Whatever the case may be, it's got some something that itches, it's like, feel like ants, or it's like, it happens. Well, it happens less, I use a cream, but also I gotta get the right cream, and I gotta get because I went to check if it was STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, STDs. And it's not an STD. I went in 2016. I think I still have the record somewhere to see if it was a sexually transmitted disease. If it was a sexually transmitted disease. But it's not an STD. So it kind of looks maybe like it's this one is Halloween also. It kind of looks like it was, like this lion there. See the lions? Kind of looks like it was two lions, a lion and a lioness, I guess. So it could be psoriasis or eczema, eczema, the skin condition, eczema. It looks like psoriasis or eczema, really. Eczema, but it could be that it's also maybe a failed circumcision, I guess, or self-mutilation. It's ambivalent. It's really, and it just grows with the erections. It grows. Hey, look at that beauty. What you do, you spider? You looking at me with the red eyes. I see you every day. Not every day say hey. Got a blessing, got a kisses, got a sparkles on the body, ain't you? Gotta love it for you see, rock and roll, you know you. And me, gonna dance and rock the world. Spiders for the goddess kisses, you know, Halloween, we love it, trip it. Oh yeah, nice, very nice. I love it. All the street, one side and the other side, full covered. Children are gonna have a bang, and there's a dragon there in the back, green dragon, and these look happy, eh? All of them look happy. And those 3 little ghosts there. See, the 3 little ghosts also look happy, content, joyful. It's a joyous occasion, Halloween, really. When you get to dress up and you get to see beautiful flowers. It's still, well, it's October 31st, so I'm not sure they're gonna be anymore by then, but some will be, some won't. So anyways, I'm gonna have to maybe save some money. So if I make money, I'm gonna get the appointment to go consult the dermatologist, but $300 was couldn't afford it, and I'm basically living on a financial stress. But that's what it was, and I'm gonna go check what that is down there, you know. So I went to check for STDs, but it's not an STD, so it's not related to sexually transmitted diseases in any way, shape, or form. But it's probably eczema or psoriasis or eczema, psoriasis. It's like a mutil. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe. I guess it's. It's a wound, you know, wound, you know. Maybe it's like it looks like on the side that it's almost like a burn, almost, or mutilation. It's not really like a traditional burn, okay. It looks like an eczema, and then you see on the side there's like 4, like it looks like part of it was stitched, you know. Strange, anyways. It's there. I don't hide it. I discussed it on my videos in the past. I'll keep you updated once I go to the dermatologist, I guess. Or I'm still waiting for a family doctor. My physical activity, that's why I recommend all, you know, it's so good for the body, and I'm not sexually frustrated. If I would be, I would discuss it. I would discuss it. I would definitely accept 18 and plus friends with benefits, you know. Don't waste my time, please. I won't waste yours. And I will say, of course, accept friends with benefits, you know. Friends with benefits. You know, I'll accept friends with benefits. But besides that, I'm pretty good, pretty joyous. You know, I don't have, you're a man or you're a woman. Eh? We play that both rainbow. I've been in the open for more than 11 years, as long as I can remember, but now I'm going to change the subject, because getting in the public, so, you know, it's not Pride Parade every day, although with us LGBTQ, I guess we're always, we're 24/7. We got Pride Parade going once a year, one day a year, but it's pretty much 365, 24/7 on that rock and roll. So now related to Asperger's, HFA. So this is the condition. That condition is a neurological mental divergent condition. There's no medication for it. You cannot medicate Asperger's or HFA, high functioning autism. It cannot be medicated. You can't medicate Asperger's. You cannot medicate autism. Generally, there are certain things which you can do, but there's no medication, you know, because it's not a disease, and that's where we have to specify, elaborate, right? It has to be fully understood that it's not a disease, you know. Oh, there's another one up there. Another one. I'm gonna go vote. I'm gonna explore and keep updated, whatever the case may be, for whoever it is that we're gonna vote. We're gonna see. So Asperger's is not a disease. That's where we have to draw the line and insist that Asperger's, HFA is the same thing. Again, it's not a disease, and we have these mutations of the brains, and we perceive the world differently, right? For example, I give you an example, like I always do. For example, personal space. I always have to work on it. Thanks again to my anonymous friend who loaned me from the library 4 times the book Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, and that was a great book for all to read if you're interested, and it opened my eyes to my own vulnerabilities as well, because we can be vulnerable to certain conditions of the hive group mind in certain ways, where we have these ritual like routines, where I don't mind change much. I'm an individual aspie. I'm an individual sovereign citizen with high functioning autism. I do not speak for the whole community, although we're a very small community. We're less than 1% of the whole North American population, so less than 1%, right? While even the LGBTQ community, where the millennials are about 6% and Gen Z is about 7 or 8%, so Gen Z is a higher rate of the population which are part of the LGBTQ community, and of course it's way higher than people with Asperger's and HFA, high functioning autism. So we see the world differently, and certain things can be more difficult for us to grasp, to understand. Certain nuances of social communication can be very different, and we have to build bridges, and it takes patience. It requires patience, lots of patience to build bridges. So building bridges requires patience. So building of the bridges requires patience, and the building of the bridges is a must between us neurotypicals and neurodivergents, right? So building of these bridges is always a constant as well. So we have to build them in the way, of course, where we have to shape it. And of course, these dynamics of the social aspects are that we see the world differently, So we perceive the world in a different way, and thus we can lose lots of friends, right? I lost many friends. Losing jobs also. The unemployment level is very high for Aspies, very high, super elevated. It's around more than 80%. That's 4 out of 5. And no, not all Aspies are good at computer science. About 20. Okay, so there is a disproportionate amount of Aspies who are good at computer science in regards parallel comparison, where we have to contrast, or there's a statistical if you're not going to use the word overrepresentation, but Aspies, there's more in relation to per capita, let's say, in the percentage per capita of Aspies who are good at computer science. It's about 20%, so that's about 1 out of 5. But not all, 20% is 1 out of 5. It's way bigger than in your population of neurotypicals, which you consider the vast majority of the population of 99%, of which the ones that are good in computer science are estimated, of course, about between 1% and 4%. So it can be that it's about 11% higher or so, depending on the variations. The variations, of course, by state, by different states, California, Quebec, different states, Florida, different states can have different representations in regards. And here you can pass on the side. Remember last video, I calculated there the bricks in the corner, and if I remember correctly, they were 11 per 11. They're less now. I guess they used them some. I don't know. I'm not sure. In that corner, I see it blurred, but that's where you see the past video that I calculated, and this came kind of instantaneously, So yes, we are above average in mathematics. I'm not a mathematical genius, but what I love, and again, when I say that I love math, you have to understand that it's an Aspie love, So you also have to correlate it from an Aspie perspective, that it's a love which is kind of more automatic, it just is. So, without much, there is an effort, but the effort is Aspie-esque, For example, I could do percentage calculations for hours and hours and hours in mathematics, ratio of percentages, things of that nature. For example, we can go and check the price differentials and increases in the markets. If you come pledge your allegiance, friends who benefit, don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. We can do the calculations of the east, west, north, south of all the dynamics in the grocery stores, right? And calculate and the ratio and the percentages vis-a-vis the prices and the ratios with the grams, and compare shrinkflation, which is the reduction of course, the weight of the produce, which is a reality, and the going cost of living. So that I do constantly, and it's constant. Sometimes I don't even have to do with the calculator, and sometimes the answers just pop in my brain. Right, you see it as a proof in my videos, and then you say, hey, how come you don't need a calculator for that? Even at the grocery store, sometimes. I'm above average, but I'm not the best. And I'm not highly advanced in high advanced mathematics, but these come very easy. The percentage calculation, ratios of percentage fractions, multiplication, division, things of that nature, and specifically percentages calculating percentage ratio. For example, I'll give you an example, concrete example. Let's say I'm gonna take an easy one, but there are harder ones. So for example, let's take my wafers. I discuss wafers and I buy them often. So my wafers increased in the past 3.5 years 3 times, the same ones that I bought over and over and over again. They're 175 grams at the beginning 3.5 years ago, and before, because I bought them for years, the same ones, they were $1 3 years ago. Then 2 years ago they increased to $1.17. Then a year ago from $1.17 to $1.39, and now finally 4 weeks ago from $1.39 to $1.50. So those are 3 increases, right? So per dollar, from $1 to $1.17, because it's $100, $1 is 100 cents. So that's percentage calculations is easy, because it's 17 cents is 17%. So that's co-equivalent. 39 cents is 39%. 50 cents is 50%. So basically it increased by half, 50%. But of course the numbers can be different, right? It could be 500, right? What's 10% of 500? It's 50, right? Because 10% you reduce, you cut a zero. You cut a zero, basically, because it's 10 times 10 is 100. That's always 100% is the unit, right? The unit. So if it's 700, it's 70. That's 10%. If it's 5, it's 70 divided by 2. Because you get from the 10, then you get divided by 2 is 35%. And if you want to get 1%, well, it's 7, right? Because you cut 2 zeros. So on and so forth. So this I could do all day, I could just do, and it's a joy. There's a love to it. But again, it's an Aspie love, So I do it in the stores. In the stores, I do it constantly. It's a constant thing that I do, and I've been doing for years. And these are just traits, and it's beautiful. I love it in the middle. Looks happy also, the dog. Very nice. For example, another Aspie characteristic and trait, I do not use the word symptom, because symptom is more again for an illness, for a disease, while Asperger's, again, it's not a disease. But yes, we are less able in certain things. I'm getting better and better in social communication, understanding I have to build bridges. We have to build bridges, because we have a lot of offers on the... Hey, look at that. There's a lot, not a ghost there. There's a lot of Aspies we can excel in our special interests. We have these special interests which preoccupy pretty much our whole routine. Our whole life revolves around our special interest, known as special interest or obsessive interest. I do not use the terminology obsessive, because obsessive is more from a neurotypical perspective again, right? Because me being involved even this morning for hours and hours and hours of studying or relating to geopolitics, because look at those beauties. You got 4 witches? I think there's 5, huh? There's the colors, where's the black and the white, huh? I sing that rock and roll, so you bring it as I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, there's more. There's 5 different colors, right? 5 different color witches. Hey, I love that. That's so nice. And you can see in the background there's like the moon with a face. That's lovely. Where does it come from though? It's projected, right? But from where? From there? No way. If I go inside in front of it? No, it's not projected from there. It's not from the other side. It's from somewhere. From where? From there, maybe? Oh yeah, maybe from there somewhere. There's a projection. Oh, it's so cool. Children are gonna love it. I love it. Wow, this one is really nice. The witch is there, eh? Pointing the finger at me, say, yeah, you're an I don't mean no harm to nobody, body. So I'm good at 3 things, basically, what I do on the daily. Rock and roll, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, although I love all sports. Everything to do with fitness, because I've been on the fitness journey since I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017. And that's what got me out of depression, really, crossing Canada coast to coast. And that's changed my life then. When I moved, I changed my life. When I died of COVID, I changed my life 3rd time, and I guess now on my fourth rebirth. On my 4th rebirth for seat 4. 4, hey? Seat 4. That's how we're gonna rock and roll it. So dancing is my favorite sport as the priestess. Nobody dances, I dance on steel toes for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers. And I rock and roll and I do geopolitics. But I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, philosopher, and strategist. My strategies are for the North American collective no riders, as much as they can be extended, formulated for world peace. I actually gonna discuss in a few minutes that I predicted what's happening now. Generally, I have the proof. I'm actually marking 6 years since October 2019 when I have predicted that there's a coming international conflagration on the horizon, and that was my prediction back then in 2019. So that was what I predicted, and here I am now. Hey, those look different than the other ones, eh? They all look different. They're not that joyous. One looks kind of grinning. One kind of looks joyous, grinning in a manner. One kind of looks maliciously joyous, and the other one looks kind of that was delicious, kind of. See, but the other one's kind of. They have a weird joy, but the other one there looks a bit like it just ate something they didn't like. You know, the other one looks kind of towards the sky and kind of like, ah, ha, ha, you're funny. Kind of, you know, they're nice, eh? So that's just the relationship which we have to continue discussing. So Aspies, we are different, right? But we're not bad, evil, malicious, or negative, or demonic, or whatever case may be. And for years and years and years ago, for more than about 9 years ago, 10 even, my anonymous friend and other people who have experience in the healthcare system have told me and have, semi-officially diagnosed me, semi-officially diagnosed. And of course, all that was to say, of course, in regards, of course, to be now, that I've been told, of course, for many, many, many years, many years. And I always said no. I didn't accept it, I didn't accept it. So I didn't want to accept it, and of course that acceptance was finally came after a few years. And that is something which we have to admit ourselves now. It came after a few years during COVID, so during COVID now. So of course all that formulation where it is to be, that it is during COVID, and of course all that is to say that I have to work on the characteristics. So of course all those characteristics where we have to be involved now, and we gotta get it to make sure that you cross the street safely, Sometimes the brakes malfunction. If the brakes malfunction, you gotta get it on the drill. You gotta watch it. Sometimes not just the brakes malfunction, but the citizen might press the accelerator. So it all depends on the cars, All these cars that cross here, Sometimes you gotta get rid on that, So of course all those dimensions what we have now, this is what it is now. And of course all the left and the right, and here my cousins having a little bit of that love drill. Gotta get it on that red, my favorite color. And that is something what we have now to be, of course, in the positions where we got to be circumstantial and of course demanding and requesting on the left and right. And we gotta get on those butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors now who are working and always singing that rock and roll for them in the intermittence of what we have to be here. So this is just the brain functioning. The Aspi brain functions differently, right? So there's certain things which are weird, but they're not bad or evil or negative, So that's not bad or evil or negative. So of course all those situational aspects where we have now are to be regarded as divergent, not evil, bad, negative, or malicious, Not evil, bad, evil, or malicious or negative. They're just different. But this difference can be reconciled with you, the 99% of the neurotypicals. The 99% of the neurotypicals, There can be a reconciliation. And there must be. In the building of bridges and working together for the self, liberty, and self-realization, and the collective. Because my interests are not antagonistic, hostile, detrimental to the collective. To the contrary, my Trinity theories are for the greater good. But yes, I want to get a massage once in a while myself. I can give a massage as well. Don't waste my time. Friends with benefits only, I have no need. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, SSDL. The rock and roll for world peace. I predicted what's happening now, of course, the international conflagration as well. And the Draconis dream, which is fundamentally a public-private partnership initiative. All my initiatives basically are fundamentally public-private partnership. So let's rock and roll, finish the discussion on Asperger's. So it is a neurological mental divergent condition, not an illness, not a disease. Yes, in certain things I am less able because I'm getting better at it, understanding certain social nuances, cues. For example, maybe I wouldn't know that somebody's into me. So if you're black or white or a rainbow, a man or a woman, you gotta Just gotta let me know, yeah, I want to be friends with benefits, let's rock and roll, what you got, what you bring. You know, we can negotiate. I'm not sexually frustrated. If I would be, I would discuss it. I have a healthy masturbation. Very weird, a bit awkward, probably more comedy than anything else. But hey, maybe somebody would do some trades, you know, do some exchange, fair exchange, you know. Fair exchange, you know. Fair exchange, you know, as much as we can. And 18 plus, eh? I'm gonna card you if you come to me with, hey, friends with benefits, show me your cars. You can't get carded just like when you go to the club, just like when you go to get liquor or alcohol, or here we legalize cannabis, eh? It's legal coast to coast. And I still have from like 3.5 years ago. I bought years and years and years ago, but I don't use it. I still have leftovers. Maybe I'm gonna use it on this month of Scorpio, like on the weekend, and just to use it, because I haven't used cannabis in a long time. But I don't know if before like January, February 2014, before winter 2014, maybe I was a junkie, maybe I was doing lots of drugs. That's why maybe the memories, and that's the surprise attacks which I endured, suffered, and this trauma, you know. Memories of trauma and flashes, you know, but whatever, it's not important. What's important is today, having accepted my Asperger's about a few years ago only. For years and years and years I've been told, but I don't want to bear the stigma. You know, there's still a stigma still today, although there's less and less and less. There's a lot of work being done, but there still was and is in many ways that stigma of being different and of being on the spectrum, basically on the autistic spectrum, and being that, you know, certain things we are who we are in that regards, and can only manage the characteristics, can only manage them. Eh? There's no medication because it's not a disease, so the characteristics can only be managed. So we're gonna drill it there by the corner, we're gonna go all the way to the other side like that. Tomorrow's Friday, even if it's after 3, tomorrow we go to the mountain. So except for Friday, the rule to post 3 p.m. doesn't apply unless it's on the differential, but those are just the propositions of today. So we have to manage the characteristics and the traits, because there's no medication. You can't medicate. It's a lifelong condition. We can get better at it to build bridges with neurotypicals with a vast 99%, but besides that, you can't. There's no medication involved here. You can't medicate it away. And the causes, now there's the controversial causes. It's really inconclusive, because it could be partly hereditary by heredity, and not just hereditary, but it can also be biologically environmental. There's a controversial discussion now if it's, well, Tylenol is really a brand, so it's not Tylenol per se, but it's the ingredient known as acetaminophen. When I say that, I get triggered past lives in ancient Egypt. Sounds like ancient Egyptian words, language, holy, sacred, like mystic language, eh? The hieroglyphs and all of that. So I lived there many past lives. Pyramids still stand, eh? And read Genesis chapter 50 from the Old Testament, Torah, whatever the Bible goes by, names, eh? And that is the relationship of where we have now to relate ourselves in these aspects of today. So now we have to state whether use and ingesting acetaminophen during pregnancy can be a cause for autism. I can't say yes, I can't say no. I have to really read and do more research, and I guess more research has to be done about it, right? If that consumption of that ingredient, whether it's consumed by ingesting and in the products that Tylenol puts on the market or not, right? Because it's that related to that. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Well, we do know, however, I gotta state that there is a ABC documentary which states that actually Asperger's, high functioning autism, Asperger's is actually a evolutionary process. So it's a step towards an evolution in mankind. Now I don't know about that either, because evolution, with all the jobs I lost, friends I lost, the isolation, the depression, the suicidalness, that's yeah, you say it about that rock and roll, that makes it a little bit on that that's not so how can we say, that's really not so so evolutionary. But I guess through pain, many ways, through suffering, struggle, and building bridges, I guess it could be maybe now. I don't know, because I'm a geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and artist with that, and philosopher. So neurology and neuroscience is still an evolving science. His brain has trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of cells. Gotta salute the truckers in it, and see how my aspie brain now functions. When I look at the truckers, I try to do a speculation about what they potentially might be carrying. Maybe some bacon, some bread, some cheese, some romaine lettuce, some corn, some flour, some chocolate, some ham, some beef, some eggs, some club soda, some other goods that we eat or consume are necessary for our daily survival. And they're going west, right? These are going west, and now the camera is pointing east. So now we're heading towards the east to the other side, but the other ones are going west. And of course, all these cars now are eating money, right? They're not literally eating money, of course. They're consuming gas, eating gas. And by consuming gas, they're eating basically money. Most of them, if they're not hybrid or electric. And financial reality, as I discussed it many times, is that it's about the average price that they're consuming is 75% more than before the COVID crisis, before February, March 2020. In February 2020, on the island of Montreal, the average price of gas was 93 cents. September 2025, the average price was about 161. So that's about between 70 and 75% more per liter, per cost per liter. But of course, we have the constant in cars. Again, not if they're not electric, of course. There's a constant. What is the constant for every car? They're different constants for different cars. The constant is the consumption of the gas per distance. Let's say X, or let's say that car, let's say, has 10 for 100 kilometers. The other one has 11 for 100 kilometers consumption. The other one has 12 for 100 kilometers. The other one 13. The other one 14, and so on and so forth. More or less than the other, right? But that is the constant. That car will always consume that amount per 100 kilometers per distance if the engine is running, right? So, but the fact is that if they do go the same distance, they will pay about 70 to 75% more. That's a lot, because per dollar, that's 70 or 75 cents more. Per $100, that's 70 plus $70 or plus per $100. So, because the salaries have stagnated, that's a great financial stress and burden. The driving, if you have to go to work from Monday to Friday and have to drive kilometers and hours a day, maybe you drive an hour a day just to get back. You drive 2-3 hours just to go to commute, and you're from the island of Montreal, or you're coming into the island of Montreal, you're going to Ottawa, or you're going from Ottawa to here, or you're going different cities, or just around the island, but you have to take the car, and it's like half an hour, 45 minutes just to drive to work, right? And that means that you pay per liter. Per dollar, you paid about 70 to 75% more than you paid early 2020, late 2019, and before March 2020, the COVID virus started. Because the prices did not go down, but the salaries have stagnated. The prices and everything is increases, while the majority of salaries are stagnating. So in Canada, we have this great cost of living crisis. We have a great cost of living crisis. A great cost of living crisis, right? A great cost of living crisis. A great cost of living crisis is enormous. Right? That's what it is now. That's what it is now. That's what it is now. And that's what we'll do, So those are just the matters of not just the pollution, of course, but we got to, at the same time, that there's the increasing cost for gas, and it's dominated by OPEC, and that's a matter of geopolitical discussion, right? Because it's sort of a monopoly, a cartel, right? But the lights of the highways, and we got to be grateful for the highways, the railways pollute less, right? Because it's the trains, and we got to get more electric, as we go. And here, Hydro-Quebec, the lights, and even the electricity that I'm doing this workout with, filming this workout here, is with clean, zero pollution, zero emission electricity, because it comes from Hydro-Quebec. The electricity from Hydro-Quebec goes to six states now, all the way to Manhattan Island. And our electricity is water-based, it's hydroelectric here in Quebec, Canada. So that's something which is really good to consider. Point is that most of these cars, if they're not electric or hybrid, are paying the drivers, they're paying about 70 to 75% more for the same distance, right? Because the gas consumed per distance is stay the same. That's the constant. What is the variable here in the mathematical financial calculation? The variable is the price of gas. The price of gas. The price of gas is the variable. So that's, I do that constantly. Even but it's an estimation, because I really don't know the car's exact consumption, but I can calculate it in the dynamics of knowing those general financial principle of the general overall percentage increase, right? And then there's the details in it, but the overall is that it's about between 70 and 75% more costly, 70 to 75% more costly to drive the same distance. In other words, so we resume it in that way. For a more simple way to resume it is that for the same distance is between 70 and 75% more costly for the same distance for the cars that are not electric. There you go. So think about that. That's a lot. That's 70 to 75%. Salaries have increased. The majority of salaries have only increased about 4.4%. You see the big margin in the percentages? Yeah, that's the problem. That's why we have, as Canadians, what's going on with us. Where even the PBO sounded the alarm of what I sounded. The alarm started, you can check my videos about 3 years ago. 2-3 years ago, I sounded the alarm before the PBO, Parliamentary Budget Officer, did 4 weeks ago. He said that within 12 and 18 months, we're done, Canada, because we have record deficit and we pay record debt servicing. That's why my DRT, to stabilize the old debts and all interest payments at 10%, no more than after by principle for the North American Collectif. And then we could be extending it to NATO, of course, our allies. But we have to implement the DRT. I'm going to get into the DRT in a bit, but just going to finalize on Asperger. So we have these weird characteristics, we can repeat things 2-3 times. We can, echolalia is another characteristics. We might breach personal space. So I always got to take a step or two back, right? Personal space, which I understand it could trigger unease, discomfort, and when you breach somebody's personal space. And aspies can get so close to you, it's like 4 inches instead of the 4 yards. So I can understand it can cause some alarm, some concern, some, being upset or being, things of that nature. So that is just the things which we have to do. Which we have to do. So those are the domains what we have to do now. So that is something which we have to be, and we have to be congruent about, and we have to be the domains now to relate, of course, in the relationships what we have now to live with, and that's just something what we have to live with now. So all that categorization, all those categories what we have now is that we have, of course, to discuss the solutions, and there are some solutions. It's basically building bridges of understanding. So building those bridges of understanding are, of course, the part that we have to get those solutions doing. So now that we have the solutions to be done and done with, we have to discuss the 4 problems that aspies face, right? So these are the more problems encountered by the majority of aspies. Lack of friends. We tend to make friends, but we tend to lose them. And I made lots of friends in the past 11 years, but exchanging phones and then no more calls, and 1 call, 2 calls, and 1 meeting, 2 meeting, bye-bye, that's it. That's why I don't waste my time, friends with benefits only, I paid my rent, I'm good, and I have my mountain, my island here, I have my dream, which is mainly what I'm concerned, my work, but it could be an added pleasure, to work even better with financial relief. That's my only stress now, or economic financial relief, and get to work. We got a lot of work to do. It's work, 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 and my independent work has been, of course, of great tremendous importance, although I have the flaws and the scars and the aspy traits and characteristics, which sometimes we can be direct and straightforward, which can offend, so we have to be told, just have to be told more directly ourselves sometimes, because certain things we don't know. It's like, just ask, if I can do a service, I can do it. And at work, things have to be explained clearly and define the parameters, and more directness and straightforwardness would ask us at work, without, you know what I mean? Just to do the job properly, whatever it is. If it's customer service, just to the best of the abilities to be proficient and to explain. If it's other things, whatever it is. And again, not all Aspies are computer science geniuses. In a parallel life, it is the year of darkness 2029, December 2029. It is the year of darkness, December 2029, and of course, that is, of course, just the relationship where we have to be now. So, of course, all the domains where we have to be related, of course, where we got is, of course, the situation where we have to be now. So, of course, all those relegations where we have, of course, to be relative about, and, of course, to be circumstantial about, is that this aspiness is not a mental illness, it's not a disease. Of course, it's not a disease. So that's where we have, of course, to relate ourselves in. That is not a disease. So, of course, all these parameters are, of course, circumscribed within these parameters of aspiness, where we can work to build those bridges. So we tend also to lose jobs. Not necessarily get them. It might not be that problematic, although it could be in interviews, but then losing them. Usually within... I guess my 4 months is my record, 4 months, and then 4 weeks and 4 days and 4 hours, 4 minutes, I guess. A few months, a few weeks, a few days. Because some people right away, within the next minutes, hours, sometimes days, they can tell afterwards that you're different, as an Aspie, that you're different. That you have this condition and certain things are more awkward and weird, and the parameters are, and the people, neurotypicals, you can usually tell within the next hours or minutes even, or days. You can tell that we're different, because the interactions, the abilities, and the way we pronounce ourselves sometimes, and we have generally above average mathematical skills in mathematics, and above average intelligence in verbal construction and verbal linguistics, right? So thank God is God that I am a polyglot. I speak several languages, polyglot, but that doesn't, it's not, so language and mathematical skills and other skills, mathematics, linguistics, language skills, mathematics, are not affected by memory loss, by memory loss, are not affected by memory loss. So those domains where we have, of course, now to be, that are not affected by memory loss, are, of course, the convergence of where we have now to be related and relegated about. So all those domains are, of course, now necessary to get in the involvement, of course, of our relationships. And all those relationships are, of course, relegated to these domains and these manifestations of where we have now to build these bridges, right? To build these bridges. And of course, all the domains where we have now, the domains that we have now are, of course, relegated to the awareness of the situational aspects where we have now to be revolved around and to be loved and to be free and to not be losing jobs and financially stressed, because Aspies with a 80%, don't give me the Aspies who are multi-millionaires, multi-billionaires. Yes, they are Aspies who are multi-billionaires, that supposedly Bill Gates has Asperger's, although he's not officially diagnosed. He stated that he has it. He is diagnosed, and yes, Elon Musk is only half are officially diagnosed. I'm part of the half. I'm semi-officially, I'm going to say, because friends who have experience in the healthcare system have diagnosed me. So I'm part of the half, the 50%, which is about 0.44%. Thus the real population is double, because only half are officially diagnosed. In actual reality, only half of it Aspies are people with HFA and Asperger's are diagnosed. So in reality, there's a double population. The population in reality is double what the actual number is who have a diagnosis. But I checked the consultations. The public is closed for consultation. Public health services is closed, but the private is costing the thousands. So it's really it's really a tremendous burden, financial for me. I can't afford it now. But I am rich in other things, you know, kisses and theory and geopolitics. You know, that's what I'm going to discuss now. I'm going to just finish the chapter on that Asperger's, and we tend to lose jobs often. The high unemployment rate, 80%, even more sometimes. And again, not all Aspies are good at computer science. We tend to lose friends. High depression and suicidal rates. The depression and suicidal rates for Aspies are highly elevated. Like 9 times higher than for you, the neurotypicals. 9 times higher. 9 times. That looks like a cannon a bit. Only for defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, total fortress, imperial fortress we gotta build. We gotta build a total imperial fortress, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. So that is, of course, just the categorical aspects where we have to be now. So, of course, now the other positions where we have now is that the domains, to be properly understood, consequently, that there's a high depression and suicidal rates as well. I've been there. I was low, depressed, suicidal, rock bottom, I guess. Rebirthing in these past years during COVID, lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I always recommend my workout training program and just fitness, general fitness. Congratulations that my cousins there who passed were doing that jog, you know, doing that jogging. And the other problem is, of course, dropout rates, high dropout rates. So I dropped out of college. I don't remember college. It was years and years and years and years ago, but I have a high school diploma, so I did graduate high school. But both high school and higher education dropout rates is about 7-8 times higher than for you, the neurotypicals, who are the vast majority. So for Aspies like myself, there's a very high elevated dropout rate. So those are the 4 main problems, and that's what to keep in mind. So thank you, my fellow Aspie neurodivergent who donated via PayPal last year, $25.44. And now we're going to drill it in. Geopolitics. Leave the baggage at the door. You're entering my kingdom, my domain, my special interest. I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, philosopher, and strategist. I develop strategies for security, service, and defense, especially defensive protocols for short, medium, and long term for the North American Collective, because we are, Canada, United States, a North American collective civilizational complex, and I am marking today 6 years since I have predicted the international conflagration which is unfolding now, World War III. In other words, it is possible that I get back home and China invades Taiwan. It is possible that China invades Taiwan. So it is possible that China invades Taiwan. That is a possibility. It is a possibility of occurrence. So that is, of course, a possibility that China invades Taiwan because it's an unresolved conflict from the 20th century during the Cold War period. As a matter of fact, if you want to discuss a geopolitical discussion on China or finance a great work on China, I'm open for business 24/7 in artistic, rock and roll, dancing, and sports and fitness and geopolitics. You can see hundreds of my videos, fitness videos, geopolitical related videos, and my philosophies such as the North American Collective Civilizational Complex, my thesis, which I presented to the world back in 2023, which is called The Privilege of Civilization, So that was, of course, the privilege of civilization. So that was, of course, the relative relationships where we have, of course, to be now in the dynamics, and of course all the procurement where we are to be revolved and involved now, of course, in all the domains of the spheres of the relationships where we got now to be related on the left and on the right, and in the matter where we are consequently involved, of course, to be, and in all the relationships and dynamics where we got now to be revolved with, and of course to be consequently related in a manner where we are clear-minded about what needs to be done as solutions. Like I said, for my solutions, don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. Friends with benefits only, what for otherwise? Pledge your allegiance to our family leader or friends with benefits, or pledge your allegiance, or nothing at all. That's it, that's all. So I have predicted what's happening now in a general manner. In 2019, to be specific, October 17th, I put the first video relating to the World War III scenario, which we got consequently, the World War III scenario, which we got now consequently revolved in. And of course, all that World War III scenario, we got the levels, of course, to be concomitantly in all the developments of what is existent now in the world, what exists presently as the geopolitical reality of today. And of course, my prediction has been becoming a reality in a general manner, not a detailed overall manner, but in a general manner. So I'm going to say now 3 things that never sleep. One thing, the money. What is money but to buy, sell? Money never sleeps. Money never sleeps. And one more thing never sleeps. Money never sleeps. The sun never sleeps. Sun never sleeps. The sun always sets and always rises. Money never sleeps. The sun never sleeps. Money never sleeps. Geopolitics also never sleeps. Geopolitics never sleeps, right? Because now there's a sunrise in China, Japan, Australia, Asia, South North Korea, Myanmar, Burma, Philippines, Indonesia. There's of course that consequently where we got now to do related about of course all the relationships and of course all the prudent what we have now to be circumferential about. That is just the reality that now there's diplomacy going on. There's exchanges, diplomatic cords and all the levels of the diplomacies which exist now. So all the domains that exist in the social, political, and political cultural in Asia now, while we are going towards our sunset and going to bed here, it's night already here, post sunset, they're waking up there, they're starting their business, and there's the business of politics. It could be a conflict resolution, it could be a new treaty, it could be diplomatic exchanges. Geopolitics never sleeps. Just like money. Money never sleeps. Neither does geopolitics. The sun never sleeps. The sun always sets, always rises somewhere in the world. There's always every second, every minute, every hour. There's a sunrise and a sunset somewhere in the world. There's a sunrise every second, every minute, every hour. There's sunrises every minute, every hour, every second somewhere in the world. The sun rises every second, every minute, every hour somewhere in the world. And there's geopolitical events happening everywhere in the world, of course, in all the domains where we have to be now prudent, and we have of course to get that characteristics now, of course, to apple it, and of course get all the domains where we got to be now relative to what our discussion is, which is the reality of what I have predicted becoming true, and the necessity, emergency to implement my Trinity of theories, the Holy Trinity, and build the 4. Building the 4, I mean constructing on the Canadian West border, the Imperial People Coliseum, to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, which is of course the Coliseum, which was where one of my top 5 favorite Super Bowls is Super Bowl 47. Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames, just like I have several nicknames. You know, Super Bowl 47 is known as the Hardball Bowl, the Bro Bowl, Hardball Bowl, Bro Bowl, Blackout Bowl is known as the Blackout Bowl. Several nicknames. Super Bowl 47, unfortunately my 49ers lost, but it's one of my top 5 favorites nonetheless. The 4th favorite. The first 3 are when my 49ers win, especially the first one is when my 49ers drill the Bears in the 89-90. Chicago Bears, 55-10, by 45 points. We massacred the Bears in that Super Bowl, 49ers Empire, 55-10. I watch those 5 Super Bowls I usually watch every year, including Super Bowl 47, and several Super Bowls were played in that arena in Louisiana, New Orleans, where now it's called Caesar Superdome. Before it was known as the Mercedes Superdome, and before that it was known as the Louisiana Arena. So he changed names just like I changed names, and I still got to get that money to officially change my name, but I still have to pay for it. I still have to pay to change my name, but of course officially I changed it. So of course all that to say related now where we are, of course, interdimensions, of course, of these dimensions where we live now are of course of the consequential appellations that these dimensions is that one of my favorite Super Bowl, which was that. So that was one of my favorite Super Bowl 47, and of course that was the Super Bowl which I liked, of course, to be consequently. So of course all the domains where we have now are relative, of course, to being related, and of course to be in the domain where we got. So basically Super Bowl 47 is of course something when we have as a drill, and of course all that drill is of course related to all the dynamics, and of course all the relatively where we got, and of course all that to say that this Super Bowl was one of my top 5 favorites, and of course that Super Bowl 47, Super Bowl 47 was of course relegated to the dimensions, of course, of where we got now to develop and build, of course, the biggest ever Super Bowl arena, well, not just for Super Bowls, but of course to be for sports in perpetuities, and of course that arena to be relatively, of course, revolved around all the dynamics where we got now. So all the dynamics where we have now are the relegation of the building and the construction of this mega super arena to be 11 times bigger than that Super Bowl where Super Bowl 47 was fought and played out. And of course that's what we're gonna do, that's what we're gonna construct. So of course that reality is of course the reality of what we have to do now, consequently, and in the domain, of course, of the prudence, where we're gonna have sports in perpetuities, and that sports in perpetuity is gonna be always for sports, for farmers, for butchers, for bakers, for nurses, for doctors, and of course for all those who are involved in the production, distribution of food. So all that to say, in relative, of course, of the aspects where we live now today, is that is one of my dream as well. Part of the dancing goddess of the dragon kingdom is the dream, of course, for the North American collective where we have now to be relegated in the domain. So that is the reality of my will desire to also build the forgotten goddess temple. So the forgotten goddess temple is something which of course yours truly wills to build in the complementarity with the Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. We're going to have sports in perpetuities. So we're going to have sports events, and the sport event for inaugurating it, the sport event which we're going to inaugurate it, is going to be Dragon versus Trump. So Dragon versus Trump is going to be the inaugurating Super Bowl. So that inaugurated Super Bowl is going to be yours truly, Dragon versus Trump, and that Dragon versus Trump is going to be the correlations and the correlative relative, of course, to what we're going to do, because I've been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match ever since 2018, and ever since 2018 I have been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match in that relative appellation, of course, to be relatively for all, of course, our developments and our integrative aspects, of course, of where we have now to be relative for the domain where, of course, the relationships are to be constructed in such a manner where we develop the best, most cordial economic relations with each other. Canada, United States, I'm making a reference to both Canada and United States, because, as I'm going to make the statement now, but I'm first going to finish the 4 buildings that I will to build parallel to the Imperial People's Coliseum, is going to be the Forgotten Goddess Temple. That's to be 11 times bigger than we have the arena here. Well, it's not really an arena. It looks like an arena inside, but it's actually the oratory St. Joseph's, the St. Joseph's Oratory. So the St. Joseph's Oratory is, of course, a great building here, which I will to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple. The Forgotten Goddess Temple, of course, consequently to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. So that 11 times 11, just like the Imperial People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, I will to be at 11 times bigger than that Caesar Superdome, which is in Louisiana, New Orleans, where, of course, several Super Bowls were fought and played out. The New Orleans Saints play most often, but many Super Bowls were fought, played, and battled out there. So that's what my will, of course, to do, of course, relative to all the domains where we got now to be established. And, of course, all the representative aspects where we got are, of course, to be relative with the domains of being, to build, of course, also the House of the Dragon. The pyramid, the house of the dragon. That's why we got to build consequently. The pyramid, house of the dragon to be 11 times bigger, of course, than the Caesar Superdome. And of course, the Caesar Superdome is, of course, to be relatively involved in all the domains where we have now. So basically, the Caesar Superdome is to be building it. Now we're gonna build also the Forgotten Goddess Temple with it and the Imperial People's Colosseum. So the Imperial People's Colosseum is gonna be in the revolving, of course, of all the domains where we have now to build consequently. So these are the fours. These are the four. So these are the four buildings which we're gonna build. So of course, building those four are gonna be our Imperial, of course, consequences where we're gonna build them. So of course, all that to say, in the relative capabilities, of course, of where we have now to be building them, now we have to construct and build those ASAP. So that marking, hey, somebody left a little bit of something there, see? The trust in it. In the corner, eh? Yeah, somebody left it there. So that is the four, those are the four which we need to build together. So to build those four, of course, in the circumference are, of course, the domain which we gotta build. So that is something which we gotta be building. That's it, that's all. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be building those buildings in the complementary, of course, aspects of the domain of what we have now, of course, with the relationship where we got to get drilling on the side, and of course those sides are something which we gotta be building now, you know. So those are just the domain where we got now. So of course all that complementary is, of course, the relationships what we got now. So all that left and the right, and the butchers and the bakers and the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food now. Gotta be saluting them as I made it to the top there. Now we're gonna go by the side and we're gonna go all the way up. So of course all that appellations and that initiative are to be taken ASAP as a mass public-private partnership. Because I got the trends of kisses for the kisses and push-ups and some massage therapy sessions, you know. For us, we're gonna build it because there's gonna be construction workers on steel toes and on cranes and with blood, sweat, and tears, eh? We're gonna help build the 444, the Imperial People's Colosseum on the Canadian-US border. That's what we're gonna have to be building together. So I'm really excited about having support and help with that building of the Forgotten Goddess Temple and the Imperial People's Colosseum, where we're gonna have sporters in perpetuities. And as I got that backpack in the back, I got those red gloves, RED, my favorite color. And of course I have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match, and have ever since Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. And of course that was the impositions, of course, where we have now, of course, to say and to be categorically involved with all the domains where we got now, you know. Those are just the levels of the buildings which are basically, there's a relations proportionality. So I will them to be built, the Forgotten Goddess Temple 11 times bigger than the St. Joseph's Oratory here in Montreal, in parallel the Forgotten Goddess Temple to be 11 times higher, bigger in structure, size wise, parameter wise, than the Caesar's Superdome. Then the Forgotten Goddess Temple, then the St. Joseph's Oratory, and the Imperial People's Colosseum, or Trump Dragon Colosseum, to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar's Superdome, where several Super Bowls were fought and played out. And parallel to build a house, pyramid, Scarlet Crimson, House of the Dragon, Scarlet Crimson. I could have open house there, you know. And another one, of course, is gonna be the Forgotten Goddess Temple with that. And of course, all the representational proportionalities of also building the house, the Rainbow People's House. And of course, the Rainbow People's House is gonna be consequently for my fellow neurodivergent community. The neurodivergent community and the LGBTQ community. So with that, we're going to finalize on those four buildings that I will to build. Now we're going to go back in time again, 2019. So I predicted that there will be an international conflagration. In other words, I predicted a World War III. A World War III, that's what I predicted in 2019. 2019, I consequently predicted a World War III. October 17 was the first time that I posted a video relating and describing the World War III scenario consequently thereof. October 17th, 2019, that was the first time that I predicted it. So that was, of course, the consequential prediction of my World War III scenario backdating from October 17, 2019. So that is the reality of where we are now living. The space, in this space-time continuum where the year of darkness 2029 is where I find myself in a parallel self, of course, where I create, build supercomputers, satellites, microchips, satellites, supercomputers, and all things that have to do with dynamics, parallel, of course, all the dynamics which, of course, have to be doing in them now, of course, in consequently where we have to be doing them now. So that being stated, that now we find ourselves in a very similar reality of that resembles my prediction of 2019. Now, although my prediction was based on levels of academic, scholarly, more intellectual, geopolitical discussions, it relates that one of the main motives and reasons for my prediction having been that we're faced with a incoming World War III scenario was one of the main motives or reason was that many conflicts were not able to be fully resumed and fully reconciled, which date from the Cold War period. And you know, the Cold War period I dated between March 1947 and December 1991. December 1991, right? End of December 1991. So I say almost 45 years. I don't mind people saying more than 45 years, saying 45 years plus 46 years. I do object to less though. So not more necessarily. But of course, if you're gonna go more than 47, no, because then it exceeds. Then we're going into the Second World War. We're still ongoing in 1943 and 44 early, you know. So no. So yeah, there's some limit. So if you say between 44 years and 47 years, then I can say yeah. But my statement is the Cold War lasted, and most people agree, circa March 1947. The end of December 1991 with the perestroika, the official dissolution of the CCCP, the USSR, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, the USSR. And interestingly enough, just yesterday, there was that I discovered there. Remember yesterday I discovered the ones from the USSR there, the tapes. I saved them from the rain because it was raining and the rain continued after. I saved those VCRs, although I don't remember using VCR myself because my memory is black out. March 2014. So that's a March, of course, with a blackout with that, of course, dynamic. So those are just the tapes. 4 tapes. 3 tapes look the same. There are 4 seasons in those 3 tapes, and the other one have their 2 tapes in 1 case. So 4 cases. And they all date from the Soviet Union time, from 1979. So that is, of course, the relegation, of course, of being involved here. And see, look at the bridges there. Look at the bridges. Gotta salute the workers, eh? All this is a privilege. And there's truckers now which are transporting all our goods, eh? All the truckers across Canada, United States, it's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. It's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3 with me, you know? It's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3 with me in the consequential appellation where we got now revolved around that. It took brains and muscle, and that was my thesis back in 2023. Civilization is a privilege. Or, of course, the privilege of civilization. The privilege of civilization. Civilization is, you know, we have electricity, running water, highways, railways, etc., 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 etc. So that was my prediction, that due to the fact that I gotta give a shout out to the public workers who build these floors here. There's 4 layers, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, like the hangings, although they're in Montreal, like the hanging gardens, although they're in Montreal here, you know. So although they're in Montreal, they were like kind of like the hanging gardens. So if you, of course, know what I'm referring about the hanging gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the world. So these are, let's see, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's night, so you can't see that well, but usually there's flowers and flora, and there's kind of bushes and trees planted, and it's very nice. I like it. Good job. But if you're talented, just write something good, you know. But otherwise, just this scribbling, you know. Some have talent. If you have talented, I would give some permission with the city. We can work something out across our empire. Coming over 63 was we're gonna fuse Canada, United States. Gonna get into that. So that was my prediction in 2019, and it's ongoing. So I'm marking 6 years since that event where I started, and consequently I also created a workout training program system, created, made, designed to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, right? Hand in hand with a World War III scenario. So I created what is called officially the General War Integrated Total Body Training System. Thank you, truckers. The General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army Workout, I created it in October 2019. I performed myself more than 372 sessions. I created it, made it to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. Consequently, I created it and made to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. So of course that was the consequential, of course, representation, of course, of all the domains where we got now to be relative and related, of course, and all that, those spheres of representations. And that is, of course, the reality of my prediction. Ah, my eye, right eye. So that is, of course, what I have predicted back then, back then in 2019. So that was the prediction of 2019, consequently. So you can see part of the Montreal downtown core area there. You could start seeing it. We're not going to go downtown. Tomorrow we're going to go by the mountain. We're going to try to leave on the earlier, but doesn't matter tomorrow if we leave, whatever the case may be, when we leave or whatever. So anybody want to finance, that I go up and down these stairs 300 times, I'll go 300 times, and that's what we're gonna get drilling with that, and that's what we're gonna get, 300 times, and that's all we're gonna do now. 300 times, go up and down 300 times. Consequently, go up and down 300 times. Here's another one. Oh, this one's wet, but this one's plastic. This one's plastic. She says Moscow. It says Moscow there. The year 2000. See, that's the word for Moscow there, see? Moskva, that's Moscow. Probably always also from the Soviet Union, eh? Somebody's been leaving Soviet Union era tapes I found yesterday and here, but this one's wet. VCR, look at that. Oh, look at that. It's in Russian. Interesting. I wonder what it's about. Like the team, like if the Soviet Union the ones that we got yesterday were from 1979, but this one says here 1967 original, and I think they redone it in the year 2000, I guess, after the Soviet Union's collapse. Guess you have to read Russian really well to know this. Anybody want to finance that I go up and down these stairs 300 times? $300 for whatever cause, whatever you want. And see, that's my favorite skyscraper there. See, that's the downtown core area of Montreal. You can see that pyramid there, and I'm twerking a bit for all my allies and armies right now, doing a little bit of that twerking. For the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, and electricians, the welders, all those involved in the production distribution of food, you know, all those involved in the production distribution of food. Oh, I think that's the best twerking session I ever did. I think I'm getting better. Get that booty insured for a trillion priestess. Hana keep my name out of your mouth if it's not for a blessing. Otherwise they'll be blessed for a priestess or a goddess and Dragon Zero, and that's that rainbow. I think the best twerking session. I'm getting better at twerking. Gotta get better at a lot of things, I guess. I love twerking, actually. Anyways, well, because I love dancing and fitness, but twerking I'm not that good. So I predicted what's happening now back in 2019, and yes, I remember I used to live, at least 2014, 2015, because before February, January, winter 2014, I have a blackout of my memory my life prior to that time, you know, it's like on a blackout. Sometimes memory comes back, whatever, with time or some XYZ activities, but my neighbors there were Russian speakers, were speaking Russian, but I don't want to go back to nothing, and besides, you know, what for? After so many years, I died so many times, but to go, they probably don't even remember me. 11 years ago, it's like, what? Who are you? Have to show them the 2014, 2015 receipts there with the address to say if they still live there. Maybe they went back to Russia or Israel, because they were from Israel, actually. Well, Israel, they had family in Israel. They were living in Israel and Russia and Israel, so maybe that's why. Yeah, that's why maybe I know a little bit of Russian. Eh? I'm a polyglot. You don't lose that type of memory, but I know a little bit of Russian, not too much. So back to what I was saying, I predicted what's happening now. I speak mostly English, French, Spanish. For the past 11 years, it's pretty much been the English, French, Spanish. English, French, Spanish. English, French, Spanish. English, French, and Spanish. English, French, and Spanish, you know. English, French, and Spanish. So of course those are the dynamics, of course, where we have to be now, the relationships of living now. So back to now, in the past years, especially since I got out of depression, of my work, which involves lots of artistic and geopolitical work, and my prediction that is transpiring, occurring now. I want to give a shout out to the nurses here who finished their one more hour to go to finish their 12-hour shift. So sending some LOV, some love, some rock and roll for them, some good love, because that's what I got, rock and roll, hugs anytime. And yeah, my prediction, that's what I predicted basically, because one of the main fundamental motives and reason that I predicted an international conflagration coming on the horizon was because many nation states, civilizational complexes, were not able to reduce and to reconcile their conflicts from the 20th century, specifically from the Cold War period. If you see what's happening now in Russia and Ukraine, right? Russia and Ukraine, those are conflicts which did not find their final resolution, right? So Russia and Ukraine were conflicts, of course, which did not find their final resolution, right? Russia and Ukraine, those are conflicts which did not find their final resolution. So those, of course, all the conflicts, of course, which we have now to be. So they did not find a final resolution, of course, with that. They did not, of course, find a final resolution, right? So they did not finalize their resolution. They did not, just like here we made a great linguistic compromise for the French language, of course they did not finalize their conflicts from the 20th century, no? From the 20th century. They did not get their conflicts, of course, finalized, of course, in a manner, of course, congruent to what we have now. So, because if you look at the conflicts, even Israel, Hamas, Palestine, Hamas was founded in 1987 during the Cold War, right? Hamas was founded in 1987. In 1987, Hamas. From the Cold War, Hamas took 20 years in order to attained power, military, political power over Gaza, the Gaza Strip, which has a population about the population of Montreal. It took them about 20 years, eh? It took them about 20 years. So that took them a long time. That was a long time for them, of course, to relegate all those dimensions what we have now. So of course, all that to say is, in consequence, what we have now to be, the domains, and all that reality of what we are attained now to be, is of course the fact that even China-Taiwan is a conflict from the Cold War period, and even India and Pakistan, of course, eh? Certainly Ukraine and Russia. There seems to be no end in sight, really, and maybe there will be. Ceasefire in Israel, did it cease? Yeah, there was something going on. I guess representative from the US visited Israel now, and we're going to see where that goes, because when I get back home, that's what I'm going to do for a few more hours before I go to bed, eh? Geopolitical analysis, theorizing revision of events, because it's 24/7. Geopolitics never sleeps, eh? Geopolitics never sleeps. Geopolitics never sleeps. So that is the fundamental reality of my prediction. Now I want to discuss what I did not predict. So I did not predict that our relations with the United States will deteriorate, right? So that is new for me, because Donald Trump was on his way out in October 2019. Look at that beautiful blue. I love that. It's really nice there, eh? Just embellishes, refreshes the whole area. So beautiful, and just feels so good to me. It quadrupled my smile. That whole blue. Love that blue. Really nice. So, of course, related to whatever I just aforementioned stated, that these conflicts date from the Second World War, fundamentally from the Cold War. So that, of course, is a fundamental understanding of where these conflicts were not finalized. They didn't find a resolution. Here I always made a statement that we made what I call the great North American collective civilization's linguistic compromise here in Quebec for the French language, right? For the French language. And I always, my empire, the fusion Canada, United States, my way best via my Detro fusion tree, citizen integration tree, and the DFT democratic fusion tree, and LOVE for that fourth dimension, you know, to mix, fuse the 10, the 50, and the 3 for the SSDL and rebuilding, reconstruction. And of course, those domains what we have now to be are of course relegated, of course, to the realities of our civilizational complex, where we get those domains, and of course now to be living, we have to pass there. Got 23 seconds, yo. Got 23 seconds, of course, in the domains, and 19 seconds, 17 seconds, 16 seconds. We got plenty of seconds, but time is still ticking, eh? Time is ticking. 10 seconds to cross on the other side, I guess. It's like a rocket launching in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff! We made it in time. We made it just in time, eh? So that's good. Whoop, just in time. I'm gonna drop the tape here. It's a bit wet on the outside, but not internally. So of course that was my prediction. So now I did not predict that there was an international conflagration. So I did not predict that there was an international conflagration. Correction. I predicted an international conflagration of World War III, not a deterioration of relations with the United States. That's what I got to do, that correction. So I did not predict that there was going to be a conflict with the United States. Because it is now, eh? We have a trade war. This is new for me to consider. And Donald Trump was on his way out, finishing his first term, and I did not predict his re-election. Donald Trump's re-election I did not predict, right? Donald Trump's re-election I did not predict. Of course, that I did not predict, right? That I did not predict. Donald Trump's re-election I did not predict, eh? I did not predict Donald Trump's re-election. I talk to strangers. Interesting. I guess sometimes to make acquaintances and new friends and friends with benefits, I guess I got it, you know. Sometimes it's just something which we gotta do, eh? But of course that is something which we have to be mindful. So of course in the consequential relationships where we have now is of course the relative importance of in many ways aspect of importance is to consequently consequently relegate, of course, the discussion to some solutions. However, these solutions have to be regional for the North American Collective first and foremost, because fundamentally I'm a North American. So as much as I know the history, the regions, the dynamics, the geopolitics, of course, the geopolitics of other nation states, of regions, and geopolitics is pretty much worldwide, international, global. So as much as I know them, I'm fundamentally a North American. So there's some things which are going to be a little bit on the bias, maybe subconscious or conscious bias. Maybe there are going to be some levels of fully not understanding certain dynamics. So it's from a North American perspective, because fundamentally I'm a North American myself. So in that relegation of that, in awareness of myself being, although a great independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and I got to make the statement that, of course, that both Granddaddy Trump and Connie, Uncle Connie, King is absent. Uncle Connie pledged allegiance, just like predecessors, Trudeau and others, Mulroney and Harper pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs, Connie, not to the Constitution and people, citizens of Canada. Pledged allegiance to the King of England. Think about that, Uncle Connie. So I gotta go. It's time for the Republic. So I did not predict the current situation with the United States. Now the statement that I'm going to make is also a constant political statement. It doesn't change. A constant, just like the pi symbol, The pi symbol. The pi symbol is an N, basically Normandy, natural, neurodivergent, neurotypical. It has two faces, two heads. Thus, our coming Imperial Republic of the 63 will be two-headed and two-faced, one for goodness and kindness, benevolence, goodness and kindness. Benevolence and goodness and kindness. The other one will be for punishment. And it's more severity and more, in a way, some justice, I guess. And of course, all that congruence is, of course, to be in the relative aspects, of course, of the domains where we have to be saturated in this knowledge that our main interest, and this is reciprocal for my brothers and sisters in the United States, because I'm a Canadian, American Canadian, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3 that we have to build. And why I say that this is a constant is because it doesn't change. But there's no more water. When it comes to foreign affairs, right? When it comes to foreign affairs, we have to implement to build the best economic, social, financial relations with each other. The best social, financial relations with each other. That is just the reality of what we have to do. We have to build the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with each other. There's no way around that. Because of our historical past and common historical destiny, and because of our geography. The geographical realities make it so. So with that statement, you cannot argue. You have to say yes, 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 yes. You cannot negotiate with that. For our reality, for Canada, it is that we must, when it comes to establishing a hierarchy, so if we are to establish a hierarchy of with whom we have to work to establish the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with, it is with the United States, It is with the United States. So it is with the United States that we must establish to work the best, most friendly economical, social, financial relations with. And you, the United States, although you have a border with Mexico, it is still with us. It is still with us that you have to establish the best, most cordial relations with. That's just what it is. There's no way around that, right? There's just no way around that. There's just no way around that. That one you have to accord in the plural. So that is the statement which has to be accorded. Now I'm going to discuss the DMAA real quick and then get into the DRT. So the DMAA, it's a theory protocol, it's a work-to-work protocol which has to be incorporated and established. You have to, of course, discernment is required. So a certain level of discernment is required when, of course, dealing with this special theory. It's not just a theory, it is a philosophy, it is a work tool for NATO. NATO's motto is Animus in Consuelo Liber, that's Latin animus. In Consuelo Liber stands for a mind unfettered in deliberation. Now, DMAA stands for Direct Military Assistance and Action, and it's only military related. It does not relate to socioeconomics and dynamics. It does not relate to social economics and dynamics, right? It does not relate to social economics. right? Humanitarian aid. It's not providing humanitarian aid, you know? It's not providing humanitarian aid. No, it's military assistance or action. And one example is, for example, Ukraine is not part of NATO, but it is when NATO member countries, as individual or as collective, assist other countries, of course, assist other countries. Assist other countries. So this assistance of other countries creates a hostile possibilities that we have the C, the DMAA, stands for direct military assistance, an action or assistance, and in parentheses there's a C. And that C could be that, it could be that Russia, China, or other countries, because of our assistance, not action, because we didn't take direct action, it could be possibly that, consequently, that these countries foment internal discord and even support transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, such as the Transnational Criminal Syndicate Organized Group, which was dismantled, one of the labs, super labs, dismantled by the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is the equivalent of the FBI, which was dismantled last year. Last year is in 2 days is going to be marking a year, so good job, bravo, well done RCMP on that. Last year, you know, the RCMP dismantled the biggest ever drug super lab in Canadian history. There never was such a big super lab dismantled in Canada. Never ever has it been such a super lab dismantled in Canada. Never ever. First time the RCMP last year dismantled the biggest ever super lab in Canada. It had weapons, it had munitions, it had money, and it had circa 95 million doses of fentanyl, which could have potentially killed the population of Canada twice over. It could have potentially killed the population of Canada twice over. So of course, being that it could have killed potentially the population of Canada twice over, that is of course the relationship of that reality, of course, that it could have killed the population of Canada twice over. Can you imagine just that one super lab? What if this Transnational Criminal Syndicate Organized Group, what if it had five labs? What that means that there's four to go. Maybe one's in Quebec, maybe one is in Ontario, maybe one's in Yukon, maybe one is in Nova Scotia, right? You understand? And August 1st to 2025, United States give me goosebumps when I discuss it. It's a national security matter, and I'm always binationally for the 63. My theories, such as the total mobile defense theory, which I cannot discuss over much because it's binational security sensitive, only with David McGuinty, high-ranking security members of the apparatus of both RCMP, Armed Forces of Canada's public security ministers, and Pig Hexet and Pam Bondi, and of course Tulsi Gabbard, you know, for the DHS and Canadian security is binational made. Total mobile defense theory, which when we put it into action, it's a system for total collective defense based on my 911 total integrated service and security protocols of 911 North American Dragon, part of the Dragon Army initiative, of course. But now to go back to what I was saying is that since we're designated by the United States as an unusual and extraordinary threat, since August 1st, that was the motive given by the reason of tariffs, which the increase in tariffs has occurred, and of course it's still increased furthermore in the past. Still increased furthermore in the past, you know. Still increased furthermore in the past. So of course, the facts that they have increased furthermore in the past. That was of course the reality. So of course, all that contingency to say is of course the reality, of course, that we have it now. So of course, all that reality where we are now in the concomitant, of course, aspects are that we have to be relatively about our domain. So I'm just gonna watch the dog, you know. Thank you, merci. Just gonna have to watch the dog. So that's the reality. So concomitantly, in the parallel manner, that is an alarming new development, an alarming situation, which is totally undesirable. Totally undesirable. I get goosebumps when I discuss it because we have to work together here, coast to coast. But it's possible due to the paradoxical, the DMAA, the direct military assistance and action, which again is a theory protocol for NATO to deliberate for a work to whether we take action or we assist in the future, because it has the C, the consequences, which can be that what if that transnational criminal syndicate organized group was both supported by maybe China, maybe Russia jointly, to flood our streets with fentanyl, which more and more I'm designated as a bioweapon rather than a drug. It doesn't make sense that it's killing so many people. And here in Canada, we got that legal cannabis. We got so much different varieties of cannabis and hashish. We legalized it in 2019. This fentanyl, there's something odd. It doesn't make sense, because you would think that for a drug dealer kingpin perspective, they want to make money to buy 44 cars, 4 mansions, and 3 public planes, and 333 whatever other things, and $50,000 an hour luxury sex workers, XYZ, whatever the case may be. But since people are dying from this fentanyl, there's something odd there, right? It doesn't add up to me. More and more I'm designating it as a bioweapon, covert bioweapon. So the DMAA has consequences, that it could be one of these consequences which we have lived, and the RCMP dismantled, just like here. Last year the RCMP dismantled the biggest super lab in Canadian history. And of course, all that contagious is what is to say now that it is, of course, the relationship of which we have now to be concomitantly and in SSD, security service and defense. See, Dragon Army potential here. We're going to establish the SSD via the DRT. So now I'm going to just jump in the gonna finish saying this part. And again, it's alarming that we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat, but the RCMP warned us for years and years and years, since 2015 and circa again since 2021, that of course they were still going and still ongoing with it. 2021 during COVID, of course, the RCMP had continuously warned us since about 2015 about a growing transnational criminal syndicate organized group establishing themselves in Canada. And last year, the RCMP dismantled the biggest ever drug superlabs in the United States. Official dictum signed by the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself. You can see it on the whitehouse.gov, the official documents. The motive, the reasons of increasing tariffs on Canada, one of it is the superlab question and the fact that we lacked coordination. When you coordinate, it implies automatic cooperation and joint action. When you cooperate, you can exchange trade information, blah, 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 blah. Gonna get to the solution, the DRT, debt refusion theory. My DRT has to be fully understood and comprehended. It is, of course, something which we have, of course, to implement now. The debt refusion theory, we are faced fundamentally with 4 main problems. 4 main problems fundamentally. Canada, United States, both citizens, myself included. The financial stress is co-equivalent. So my DRT, debt refusion theory, inside my DRT is integrated the monetary integration theory. So inside the DRT, the debt refusion theory is integrated monetary integration theory. Inside the DRT, debt refusion theory is integrated monetary integration theory. So I'm going to explain it now what it is. So debt refusion theory, debt refusion theory integrates monetary integration theory. So due to the main 4 problems that were faced, both Canada and United States, and because of the geopolitical situation, we have to implement it binationally. Both Canada and United States simultaneously, and it can be expanded, of course. So the DRT, will get, because of the growing cost of living, the credit card indebtedness, and of course the stagnation of the salaries, and because of the growing cost of rents, we have to implement the DRT, these main 4, right? Economic problems: cost of living, cost of rents, growing credit card debt, and the stagnation of the salaries. So we're going to take all the public-private debt, Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. My $10,000, your $10,000. I don't have credit cards. I have a $10,000 debt to the RBC in a credit line version manner. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt. My 10,000, your 10,000. We're going to add it, all the public-private debt, all the public-private debt. We're going to add it consequently where we have it. So all the public-private debt, we're going to add it all together, and of course that is what we're going to do. We're going to add it all together. We're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to get it into US dollars, and of course we're going to add it with the public-private debt of the United States. With the public-private debt of the United States, that money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank, So of course that is going to be the new central bank which we're going to create ourselves. Whatever we call it, the Imperial Central Bank, of course, the Imperial Central Bank, we're going to create it, and we're going to issue the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, the Universal Exchange Unit. The UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.UE. The UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.UE, UE, U.universal E.exchange U.UE. The universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. So we're going to add all this debt together, and we're going to create, of course, the Imperial People's Coliseum. So the UE is going to have also a name Imperial dollar, because fundamentally the dollar, the shekel, the yuan, the yen, the euro is, of course, fundamentally a unit of exchange to buy, sell, fundamentally, right? So we're going to create this new currency, the UE, going to take all the debt. We're going to set an interest rate level thereafter, 10% maximum. I'm calling on all the billionaires, millionaires to donate 10% for the building of the 44 mass tunnels, structure cities in case of a thermonuclear war, and to mass finance my dream. And that's going to be the new imperial tax. Everybody who has $1 million plus, 10%. 10% who's going to create this new currency. We're going to free standardize the prices. We're going to get rid of the border, do a great census, a great imperial census. See everybody who's been living here in the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years. If you haven't been convicted of 44 criminal convictions, we're going to give some amnesty. If you haven't been convicted for convictions, we're going to give, of course, some amnesty thereof. So that is going to be the amnesty which we're going to give. An imperial amnesty. If not, if you've been convicted like 44 or more, then it's going to be not the imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act to build those 44 tunnels and for mass public works projects, but it's going to be the Imperial Dracula protocol. So I'm going to get that in like that too. Edit two. Is the one for goodness and kindness, the other one more for severity and punishment. So now that we have that, consequently is we're going to also finance the Imperial Tourism Project. It's going to be every 4 seasons, 4 days a year, every spring, summer, and that, of course, summer, spring, summer and spring. That's going to be the summer, spring, of course, winter, autumn. It's going to be 4 days every 4 seasons, which we're going to have, of course, contracted thereof. So it's going to be all those seasons which we're going to be must. So 4 days, 4 times a year, all citizens are going to be 16 and over. So once you're 16 and over, you're going to be automatically credited these 4 days, where, of course, you're going to have 4 nights. Tourism is going to be paid. Tourism, you're going to have 4 nights. We're going to have tourists. So you're going to be all expenses paid. Imperial protocols, all expenses paid. There's going to be a great rejuvenation, rehabilitation. Once you're 16 and over, all citizens of the Empire are going to be credited 4 days for travel, for all food expenses, and of course hotels, motels, and all, of course, the domains where we have now. So all, of course, all that civilizational projects where we're going to have. Pledge your allegiance, legions, great goods with the DRT, LOVE.